Can you hear me, Greg?
Yes, we can, Bob.
Okay.
Did the original link work for you guys, or did you have to use the one I just sent a couple minutes ago?
I just used the one you just sent a couple minutes ago.
Same
I
here.
used the previous one and just sat there for 2, 3, 4 minutes because you were on the meeting.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. That's supposed to be permanent. We're supposed to get that all the time. So
In the Zoom, Greg, can't you set up where you use the same entry word all the time? Entry code?
yeah, we were, and I don't know what happened. I don't know what it is. Hi, Steve. Check your email. I just sent a new link.
Okay. Janine just called me. Let's see here. I'll
Give her a call too.
yeah. Oh, definitely.
All right.
Okay. Right. Bye.
So I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what happened that all of a sudden I noticed I had an upgrade, but that shouldn't have affected that ID number. But who knows?
Any software change can go both directions.
Maybe it was a downgrade instead of an upgrade.
Well, that's always a possibility. I mean, I put I had put the preview, the beta preview of iOS 11 on my iPad, and when I connected the iPad up, the first thing it did was disconnect me over here on the main screen, and I don't know why it did that. So obviously, I won't connect up with the iPad right now, and Duet, the thing that shares the screen, doesn't work on it. But then again, it's a preview, so I'll still be able to demonstrate it. But
It's a beta.
You know, something else I noticed this morning, I don't know if it's just me or everybody's having the issue. It looks as if the lips aren't in sync with the sound, including my own lips.
Well, from my perspective, your lips are in sync.
What about mine?
Yeah, they seem to be.
Say a few things, Steve.
Okay, I'm gonna call Janine back.
Steve seems to be okay on the sync.
Yep.
yeah, I watched a webinar Thursday on from the people who do the Take Control books for an hour, and it was there was 87 of us. And the sync was so bad. He was maybe 20 seconds behind, something like that.
Oh, boy.
Oh, so Bart, how is your keyboard working?
It seems since you played with it, it seems to be working perfectly. Same thing with the
so
mouse.
all I ask is that you send me your firstborn child.
Oh, I think Ira would come kicking and fighting.
Stuttering. I got a message. Your internet connection is unstable.
It popped up on the screen?
Yep.
I haven't seen that.
That's the first time for me, too.
And I'm running on Wi-Fi right now.
Yeah, well, my MacBook Pro's on Wi-Fi as well.
Just in case, I'm going to switch over to a hard connection, so it shouldn't disconnect any. Famous last words, it shouldn't disconnect anything. So I see that we're still up. Okay, we got Janine. Oh, that's good. And Allison Sheridan's trying to connect up. She's totally muted right now.
Oh, there's Janine. Good morning.
Yeah, I made it. Good morning.
Morning. I'm a little out of sorts. I went to a friend's daughter's wedding yesterday, and as I'm walking to take my seat, my prosthetic leg came off, and I went down on the floor.
Oh my
God.
That was real exciting to do in long pants with a crowd of people around. That was really interesting.
Oh boy.
Well, you wanted to make a grand entrance.
And I did. And that's exactly what a lot of people said. And it wasn't so bad yesterday, but today the pain of going down on my right knee, I really feel it was all I could do to get up the stairs and get down the stairs this morning. So.
And did you ice it? Did you put
ice?
Yeah,
there's no swelling. That's the problem. I can't. It's a Oh, there's Ken Cordes. Hello, Ken. Can you hear me? Hello, Ken. He's just down there in oblivion, like usual. Got to turn your sound on, Ken, if you haven't already done that.
I did.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Okay, let's see. How do I get this off the side?
Hey, Greg, I was intentionally muted, and I'm testing an app that blocks my camera, so that's why you can't see me or hear me.
Okay.
What's the matter?
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a problem for you, Allison, because it looks like our links and a lot of other things were not working properly this morning. And then I couldn't get my microphone for the longest time to work.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of hoping to lurk and see what this looked like. I'm jetting out actually to your old facility to do the other group, to do smog today. But I thought, hey, they're on live now. I can see what this looks like.
Sure.
Now I can't remember which one of these apps blocks my camera. Where is it?
Well, we don't see it.
Yeah, I use the old-fashioned method. I put a piece of tape over the camera.
That works all the time.
Yeah, it does.
Looks like
the batteries never wear out. So
looks like Don did the same thing, because I can see some light, but
online account, closing the other account, I forgot that I needed to re-enter your credit card payment for the auto payment. It doesn't automatically transfer. Closing the old account to the new.
Okay, now I'm actually just doing it wrong.
Is that yours that we're hearing in the back? Oh, there we go. Now we see Allison. You know, a lot of these guys don't probably realize you have a webcast. I usually follow you after the fact, but sometimes on Sundays I'm home and I can get a chance to watch it. But every Sunday, Allison Sheridan here does her Nozilla podcast, starting at what, 5 o'clock?
Yeah, it's actually called the NosillaCast, but it's it's at 5 p.m. Pacific time. It's not the real podcast; it's the making of the podcast, or as many people like to say, watching the sausage get made. In fact, let's see if I put my head over correctly. Where is it? That's a sausage grinder that one of my fans sent me because they get to watch the sausage being ground.
How's your family, Allison? Everybody doing okay?
What's that?
How's your family? Everybody okay?
Yep, everybody's good. My son and daughter-in-law, or not daughter-in-law, my son and his girlfriend have moved in with us for a few weeks till their house gets ready, so it's a party here now.
Oh, nice.
But actually, I got a jam. I just wanted to check this out. This video, this works really well.
Yeah, when we don't have all the technical problems, this is the first time we've had any really major problems. So, like I said, we're supposed to have a permanent link that never changes, and for whatever reason, it seemed to change today. I don't know why.
Oh no. So I have one question. Are you wearing a lot of bright maroon, like your glasses, your headphones, and your shirt, or do you have a weird color shift?
Probably the weird color shift, and I can probably fix it. I've got a third-party program called Eyeglasses, and I may have that off tweaked a little bit or whatever. Okay. I've got a green, because there's so much garbage in the kitchen right now, I've got a green cover behind my head. Nice. My wife made me do that, and I haven't and I haven't fixed the lighting problems to be able to use it as a regular green screen. It's about half my face disappears, which is probably good when I try to use the green screen feature, but at least this way you don't see all the clutter behind me. So
yeah, of the people on the call, your video is the worst. It's almost cartoony.
Really?
Mine is.
Yeah.
I mean, I see what you're talking about, Allison, with the maroon stripes on his shirt and the maroon headset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Greg, your thing behind you is yellow.
Now it's changing. It went to orange.
Yeah, talk for a second, Greg.
Hello, 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 hello.
There, I just took a picture. I'm gonna send you an email right now.
I got a little sunburn yesterday, but
you were good back a little bit.
The color behind you keeps changing for me.
There it is.
Yeah, well, it's a combination of daylight, the blinds moving back and forth, and one fluorescent tube. So it's not the most perfect system, that's for sure. I'll have to work on that. But yeah, the color is weird. It's getting more different, so that's good. But it's also it's not pixelated. I don't know how to describe it. I just sent you an email with a screenshot so you can see what it looks like. There's definitely something wrong with my FaceTime camera, because if I use my old cameras, they work better, but the built-in FaceTime here one seem a little wonky. So
Hey, there's Mr.
Yeah.
I'm
Bell.
gonna have to look into that.
Okay, well, I got to jam.
Oh,
I got to
well.
get going. Bye.
All right,
Bye.
Allison, take care.
Good day.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we're good enough. I'm going to go over if we don't have Robert on this morning. I'm really surprised.
I'll get in touch with him. Greg, one thing too, I read an article. There's a company here in Aliso Viejo that was acquired by some Japanese company. And in the stuff, there was something about Konica Minolta. I'll have to find that and get it to you. Let's see. Okay, Robert. Okay.
I don't hold any grudges. May they die a slow death. Other than that, they're fine.
Yeah.
Greg,
Yeah.
a couple of minutes ago, I talked to Bruce. He sends his regrets he won't be able to join us. He's in the car on the way to some family outing, and he wanted to pass along to everybody that he's very much improved and feeling well. They have to, monitor his blood work periodically.
Right. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. So, okay. Well, if you guys, we might as well go ahead and start, I guess. So I went ahead and I've been on the developer preview garbage. Anybody can get on that from Apple for some time. And I'm going to go ahead and get my iPad set up, and then I'll switch over to that in just a moment here. I put it on my iPad because I'm not doing anything critical with that for the time being. But on the, I didn't want to take a chance on my phone just in case there was something weird on the phone. So give me a moment here.
Oh, that's something.
Robert's unable to be here today. He's sounded pretty like he's got some things that are having problems with.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, I forgot.
Where's Frank's picture? He usually shows. But anyway.
Yeah, I got it turned off right now, Steve.
Oh, okay. And Lois is there. How you doing, Lois?
I can hear you. That's about it.
What do you mean? You can't see me?
No.
That's probably because maybe, Greg, do you think that's because she has no picture showing?
No, that shouldn't have any bearing on it at all.
Well, I think it's because my computer is too old, and it doesn't like to talk to newer computers.
Wait a second.
So
I thought you upgraded.
I got an iPad, and that's how I talk to my printer now. I have to go through my iPad.
Oh,
You know,
I thought I had transferred your stuff from your old MacBook
Yeah,
to.
you did, but it's still too. And anything over 7 years, they won't look at.
Yeah, I'm finding that out. It's really strange. I've got on the dining room table right now 2 27-inch iMacs, and I'm doing transfer from one to the other because her other one was getting to be too old.
Yeah.
So,
but it still works for what I need it for. So
that's
there's no point. I have to tell you something funny though. We were just on vacation in Wisconsin, and we went to a motel, and the motel
just getting
had
a little too personal here.
No,
Go ahead.
no. They had no phones in any of the rooms.
Really?
The woman looked at me and said, "Don't you have a smartphone?" And I said, "No." And she says, "Oh," she says, "Well, we don't provide phones. Everybody has a smartphone."
Funny thing is, it's, I remember years ago on our honeymoon, we went to a place in Carmel called the Tickle Pink Motor Inn. Sounds kind of funny, but it has a really, really interesting history. And,
Sure, Steve.
Yeah. So anyway, we got there, and you didn't have. You were tied to one speaker, not stereo, just one speaker for music, and there were no TVs. and they figured it, you know, you'd be out wandering the streets of Carmel, which we did. And so we just, it was like, you know, going back to the dark ages.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody has a smartphone. You know that.
Well, those in the know do.
I guess so. I'm
Yeah,
not in the know.
there is a way on the iPad to make phone calls.
Yes, and I use the iPad for my printing too. I transfer everything there, and it prints beautifully. So my printer is newer, so it agrees with the iPad.
There's one state that has received the AT&T, I think it was, has received permission to stop all landlines.
Well, I'll tell you about that. I had a deal to sort out because everything's run through Cox right now for me, for you know, us here. When we moved here 17 years ago to Aliso Viejo, I had to transfer the club phone and the answering machine and all that stuff. I ended up with 5 phone lines in the house, and somebody was, you know, the guy that was putting them in was just like, what? And slowly but surely, I've found other ways to get around it and cut the phone bill down. And what happened is they got our billing all screwed up, and they said, well, we gave you credit for this and that and the other thing, and you want credit again and all this. And I have spent so much time, but I have finally got one of the bills or notifications, because we do auto payment. And what happens is my wife always says to me now, is this correct? You know, because they were just unbelievable. And so anyway.
Okay, can you guys see my iPad screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you'll notice down there at the bottom, I'll go ahead and turn this landscape because I think it's easier to see. It takes a moment here for this to catch up. There we go. You'll notice down there at the bottom that there's now more than the normal 6 icons that you would normally see. In fact, on an iPad, I think it can hold up to 13 icons depending on the orientation that it's in.
Really?
And it's just as easy as getting it highlighted like it is, like so, and dragging it down into the dock.
Oh.
So you saw that. So as an example, if I want to add Yahoo Weather, get it into where it's in its jittery mode, like you're going to delete it or move it, and drag it down here into the dock, and that now it's permanently in the dock. And that dock is available at in all windows. Now it's kind of hard to see, but right here to the left of that one right there let me get out of that again. Not everything shows up. Okay, you see the zoom icon looks like the camera down, the third one from the right. You guys see that?
Yep.
Greg, the pictures are hiding, all the participants is hiding what you're talking about below. Is there a way to tip?
Yeah, you can minimize it. If you look up there in the top of the participants thing, you can click on the minimize button. You see it?
No.
It says view options.
It says record.
No.
Okay, so do you have all the images on the screen?
I just have the standard
4
ones. I can't
or 6.
I can't see the strip at the bottom because of I love seeing people's faces, but
Yeah. Well, Janine, the other thing I've noticed too, your volume's too low.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right, Janine. In the upper right-hand corner, does it say gallery view or speaker view?
No, it just says record. It says there's a choice, switch to screen share, and then record. A red record button.
But all right, the people that you see on your screen, how many people are you seeing on your screen?
4
More than 6?
4, 5,
Okay.
6, 7, 12, 16, etc.
All right, there should be a button as you move the cursor around. There should be a button that shows that gives you options to. I've got to get out of share to be able to see this.
At the top of all where you
Wait a
see
minute.
the
Okay, I
screen.
had to click on the bottom. Just a minute, so I can see. Just a second. Let me do that again. That brought up a top thing. Okay, participants more.
There's a minimize button there. There should be.
Okay.
Underscore button says hide thumb.
Mute.
Oh, Janine.
Video. Share content. Participants more.
Janine.
Yeah.
Okay. When you get a second, raise your volume. You know, your talking microphone. If you go over to the pictures of the people, it brings up a black bar at the top. And it's one is hide thumbnail video, one is show small active speaker video, show thumbnail video, show large active speaker video. And right here, swap screen share with video. So that's how you can control that.
All right. Thank you. I'll work on it. Thank you.
All right, so I just stopped the share temporarily here. I'm gonna it should have taken over your screen. I don't know what's going on here. I noticed that they've got a change on this today that I wasn't aware of. So I'm going to share my iPad out again. Can you see my iPad screen again?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see it, Janine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. I still can't see the bottom. I'm working on it. And Steve, I'm working on finding the volume control on my iPad.
That would be.
I hear your voice fine with no problem, Janine.
Oh.
Okay. All right. I'll
right.
just keep working on it. Go ahead.
Okay. All right.
I can see the top part.
I got a question. Your time, 9:41 a.m. Why isn't that changing, and why is that so far ahead?
That's it. There's a whole Apple article about that. That whenever you share the screen, whenever the iPad or iPhone is shared out, it's always going to be displayed as 9:41.
Really?
Because that was the time on the screen when the first iPhone was demonstrated at the very first time it was shown by Steve. That's by Steve Jobs. That's an Apple thing. Apparently they're afraid that you might have something up in that menu bar that shouldn't be shown, like an IP address or a location or something like, or what carrier service you're on. So whenever you share out the screen in any fashion on an iPad or an iPhone, it defaults to this one that shows the bars and the cellular service at the left, the 9:41 time in the center, and the 100% battery charge on the right, regardless of what the status of the phone or the pad is. I thought this was a defect, and it's not. It's actually documented. So it's just one of those things. If you want to show the clock, don't pay attention to that one, because that's a dummy one that they're putting up there, so that nothing personalized is shown unless you do it on purpose. That makes sense, Ken?
Yeah.
It's an Apple thing. What can I tell you? Can you guys see my cursor when I move it around on the screen? I'm not sure if that shows up or not.
Yes.
You can. Okay, that's good.
I see it.
All right.
Also,
So right now down here in the dock. I'm sorry.
the top left corner shows that I'm recording. Why?
That's
so that people can go to a site on YouTube where Greg will put this, and then those people who haven't been there, joined us.
Okay, I automatically record these sessions, Ken, but you might have inadvertently turned on recording. You can click on that. That's making a local copy on your machine if you want that or not. Just click end recording. So you'll see the pause symbol, and you'll see a white block. The white block means stop recording.
I click on that recording thing. I don't get nothing up there. Down below it says stop recording.
Okay.
That's only for you. That's local.
And I'm still showing recording at the top left corner.
I don't know.
Like I said, Ken, you're seeing Greg's iPad.
Well, this is on my screen, not his iPad.
That's on his iPad as part of this. And what happens is, like I said, we used to have this done. There was a guy that came to the meetings, and Stuart something or other, and he used to record our meetings and post them for us on YouTube. And then all you'd have to do is go to YouTube and say OACC meeting, and it sort out all the meetings. John, wake up. Saw that yawn.
Thanks.
So anyway, that's why it's recording. And for right now, we don't see any reason to stop it. But I noticed you took your picture out, so everybody has that option.
I did. I stopped recording, or stopped video, I guess.
You stop video.
I'm
there
back.
you are.
Okay.
Said stop video, stop recording. I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, Greg, go for it.
All right. So down here in the dock, I've got right now notes. I've got Fantastic Cal, which I use on the Mac and the iPhone and iPad. I've got the Apple Mail program. I've got Safari. I've got Adobe Acrobat. I've got Yahoo Weather. This is brand new on iOS 11, files and folders. I've got contacts. I've got, then over here you see the Zoom camera app, which I was using earlier, the TV movie app, and the system preferences. Now, if I want to get rid of those, let's say as an example, I want to get rid the three on the right. It's probably hard to see, but there's a thin dividing line right where the pointer's at right here. Okay. The three most recent apps that you've closed show up over here on the right. To the left of that bar are the apps that you use on a regular basis to get rid of. Let's say as an example, I want to get rid of Acrobat. All I do is depress it and hold it for a moment until I get the jittery effect. And then I see the X, and then just click the X, and it deletes it. And if I want to get rid of Yahoo Weather, just click the X, and it deletes it.
Well, can you just move it back up into the regular?
No, at least not in this.
That
Go ahead,
removes it, just like on your dock in the Mac.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now, this may change between now and September when they actually bring this out, but chances are it won't. So as an example, if I want to add the iMore app into the dock down there, because I use it all the time, wait until I'm in the jiggle state. Okay, and then literally just drag it and place it down there on the left-hand side. And now that's been added permanently to my dock until I change it. Now the cool thing is, or one of the cool things is let's say as an example, I'll go into notes here. Anytime I want access to that dock, literally I can swipe from the bottom up, and there it is. I notice it takes a moment or so for it to catch up on the screen here.
Yeah, yeah.
So like there I've got notes if I want to get into my contacts list. Switch right into my contacts list. So this is kind of handy. Go ahead.
Don't tell me you're thinking getting another RV.
Just thinking. It'll depend if I die between now and then or not. Now, of course, this does have split screen. So if, as an example, I wanted to run Safari and this, if I hold it and bring it up like you see I'm doing right there, and then let it go here somewhere, this is what's called slide over mode right now. And I can grab this window and place it wherever I want to in front of this. But if it's one of the apps, so this will work for every app. A slide over will work.
Would that be able to be that window you just put up there with the what's new for 2017? can you make that more into a square? So say, for instance, you could have more than one up on the screen?
Yeah, I'll explain.
Oh, okay.
So in the previous version, in iOS 10, this feature only worked with Apple apps because other people hadn't gotten off their dime and fixed it yet. This will work with anybody's app. If you want to have your primary app up there on the screen, like in the case of I've got the contacts there, and this one. If I wanted to do a split screen, all I do is grab that little tab that you see at the top, and now it's split screen. In the split screen, so they're both active. In the split screen mode, I get a choice of the right third, 50-50, or left third. It's going to be either third. You're either going to see 2/3, 1/3, 50-50, or 1/3, 2/3. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that works for anything that anything that anybody has updated to be able to already work with, and obviously newer apps will do that too. But another option is you also, besides having the split screen up there, come on. Oh, that's going to take over the screen. Sorry, we'll let it take that side. So obviously,
when you do the 1/3, 2/3, basically you don't have a third where you can put a third window.
At this point in time, it's 2 windows, but some apps will let you do a slide over on top of that.
I see.
So I'm trying to figure out what I should have probably checked that out ahead of time, and I didn't.
We can wait.
No, when it will go into slide over, you'll see that. There we go. Well,
over the other one.
See, so I can move these around if I want to. Now here's one of the cool things I like about it. I'm going to bring up notes again, and I'll take over this side here on the iMore panel, and I'll create a brand new note. I'm not going to put any text in right now. And here I am on the website. So let's say an example I'd like to look at, what do we got over here? No, let's go back. I'd like to have a copy of this picture. Watch this. It now supports drag and drop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, let Microsoft do that. Ha.
They will in 10 years.
So that's kind of a nice feature. And like I said, when you get rid of these, if they're not already down here in the dock on the left-hand side, they'll be temporarily added to the most recently used apps over here on the right-hand side. Now that brings up another thing. The way in the past, when you wanted to switch between apps, you had to double-click the home button, which I always thought was kind of a drag. They've got a new way of doing that now. You can do it with 4 fingers. Good luck. But if you drag from the bottom all the way up towards the center, you get there, what they would call the quick control panel or whatever it is. Over here on the right, you can see all the apps that are theoretically still running. So I've got Safari and I've got Notes in a split screen running. I can have multiple split screens, by the way, up here. I've got the iMore app running. I've still got the Zoom app running. I've got Contacts. I've got Mail. I've got Settings. I've got Files. I've got the TV app running. This would be the same as when you double clicked on the home button.
Right. And the thing that's on the right over there where it says iPad Music basically looks like all the things that when you slide your finger up on the
control center
home button, you slide it up and all that stuff comes up. And I always have trouble getting it right because I have one of the OtterBox cases and it goes all the way down the screen comes over here. And so it's very difficult to get it to...
Put your finger on the home screen and slide up. Don't push it. Just put your finger on the home screen and slide up. That'll work. The only thing I don't care about this arrangement is the way to get rid of, let's say, an example, I don't need the iMore one anymore and I want to get rid of it. You literally have to hold it until you get the X again, and then you have to delete it that way. I think that's a little klutzy as opposed to just flipping it off to the top. I kind of wish you could do that, but I guess you can't have everything.
Greg, what is the minimum memory now that's needed for all these features?
16 gig.
Thank you.
And you can go to imore.com and it'll show you which iPads. Basically, if you were able to use iOS 10, you'll be able to use iOS 11. Now, the control center over here, which used to be the only thing you got when you swiped up from the bottom, is very different. Up at the top, you see you still got the airplane mode, you've still got the Wi-Fi, you've still got the Bluetooth, you've got all the other options here or whatever it is. You've got a quick access to your music, and when you go to play music, I don't know whether I've got anything set up to play right now or not. No, probably not. Okay. You've got your brightness adjustment. You can see I can adjust the brightness here. Although that's interesting. Doesn't show up on the screen there. Only shows up on my iPod. And you've also got a volume adjustment here. You've got screen mirroring if you're using it for AirPlay. But you see there's potentially 2 rows of stuff that you have right here that you get access to. That's customizable now. So you can go into system preferences. You can go on down to control center, customize control. By the way, you can choose whether you want access to the control center within apps, if that's too buggy or not seeing that all the time. Or I personally like the feature, at least so far. If I go into customize control, you can see anybody who's got an Apple Watch, you can see stuff that look pretty similar. Up here at the top, it's showing that I've got the timer in there. Well, let's say I don't want the timer. I'll remove it. And the camera, I'll leave that. If I want to change text size, I'll leave that. If I want the Apple remote, if I want notes, if I want the alarm clock or I want the magnifier, all I got to do is just click on plus. If I want the stopwatch, all I got to do is click on plus, and it adds them up here to what will be on the control panel section that comes up when you do that. You can change the order of how they're placed on the screen by just grabbing the 3 little dividing lines and position them around. So if I use the camera a lot, I can, if I use the camera a lot, I can grab that one, move it to the top. And now when I go back over to the control panel screen, you can see that it didn't take effect yet. Who knows? But this is totally adjustable with these, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 14 shortcuts you can have on apps that can support that feature. So that's kind of a nice feature. I like that. We go back over here to split screen, and I'm going to go ahead and switch and bring up a movie I was playing around with earlier. Yeah, let's go back into this. This may or may not play because it's kind of weird about these.
Call from Joanne Pope.
Oh, turn off your stupid phone. Back later.
Okay, bye.
Go ahead, mute yourself, Ken. Okay, it won't let me play the movie because Apple signed an agreement to not play it over any kind of broadcast kind of a system. What I was going to show was the fact that when you're in a mode like the split screen, when you're in any of the modes, you can play on your iPad or your iPhone. You can play a movie and have it take over the whole screen or have it take out just a miniature. So maybe if you're in the middle of doing something and you still don't want to stop the movie for whatever you're working with right now, you can go back over and access into that and watch the movie in any of the 4 corners. You can slide the movie around to watch it in any of the 4 corners. So that's kind of a cool feature. I like that. Let's see what else. I do find right now that the beta doesn't work 100%. Once in a blue moon, I'll try to get something out of the icon on the dock down here. It'll let me delete it, but it still stays in the. It's no longer in the dock, but it hasn't refreshed for whatever reason, and I had to reboot the iPad to be able to do that. So, if you're thinking about the beta, you might want to wait till the beta 2 comes out, which is due in like 2 weeks or something like that. Okay, so let's go in and look at files and folders. this is kind of interesting in that you can see your iCloud drive, and you can see what you've got. Now, remember, this is being shared between my iPhone, my iPad, and my MacBook Pro at my iCloud account at greglock@mac.com. And I bought the 5 gigs runs out real quick if you're backing photos and stuff like that. So I've gone ahead and bumped it up to 200 gigs. I'll come back to that a little later today. And then you can see what you got on your iPad here, what folders you presently have right now. And you can also see recently deleted items. When you're here on the folder mode, you can, I don't think I've got anything in Pages here right now. No, I don't. Probably none of these right now. You can tag the colors on them if you wanted to. So if I wanted that to be this, it's as simple as doing it like so. I don't think I've got any aperture files. So you can drag these around. Everything you drag. So if I want to put this over here into this folder called board stuff, come on. There we go. Now it's making a liar out of me. Sure as hell this worked earlier today. I should be able to literally just drag this and put it into this folder.
I thought you were waiting, you were hovering because you were waiting for the green plus sign, and that doesn't show up.
No, it doesn't. That's a known bug right now. There is supposed to be something along those lines, and that's not working at the moment.
Yeah, because their whole idea was they want to make Mac.
They want to mimic the Mac as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed your thing that had the DOM files, monthly DOM handouts, which Bob Reed did quite a few of those and stuff. You think back to all the time we put to make those things, and now everything is so downloadable. I mean, I was talking to my brother-in-law this weekend, and he used to work for Microsoft, and his new up-and-coming son-in-law, who's marrying our niece, got a job there. And he said that basically, the Microsoft subscription setup is not as expensive as I first thought. That it's something like $9.95 a month or something like that. So for a whole year, or you can buy it for a whole year.
Hey, Steve, what did you ever do with that $6,000 duplicator for CDs we had?
It went to electronic recycling finally. I had it out in my my little storage room that I built off the side of the house, and I got so sick and tired of looking at it. I tried it again, and it kept dropping discs on the top of it. And I just said, you know, a lot of stuff that we had is a lot of it sitting in my garage, and it's like my wife says, "What are you doing? Get rid of this stuff." It's like what I do have in my workroom is a bunch of the old white iMacs, and with those you can't tell unless you check the serial numbers if it's an Intel or a G5. And my wife says, you know, what are you keeping them around for? And I never took the time to, first off, whenever you have something that you want to keep, and it's, you know, something like mechanical or whatever, take and put a tag on it and say what are you saving it for, or what condition it's in. So when I'd have these things, I'd set them on the counter, and maybe I'd put a sticker with the customer's name or something. And what happens is you look at it and you say, oh my God, it cost me too much in time to go figure out what's wrong with it. So it's going to start going. Because I got a whole counter. She says, get rid of this stuff and you can have a nice counter again. You know, a backup counter where I can leave computers running. Anyway.
Okay, you can see down there in the lower right-hand corner, I've got Mac Tracker, and I've got Units Plus, and I've got Calculator Plus. If I open up the Easy Remote program, and I haven't bothered to update this yet. Okay, and it's connecting up to my UVerse system. I'm going to go ahead and bail out of it. You can see it's added it to the lower right-hand corner down there on the bottom. Those are the most recently used apps.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a handy way of getting back to it as needed. And then the stuff that you're going to use on a regular basis, like as an example, if I was going to use it, eventually I'll use this on a regular basis. I just hold it until it's in the jiggly mode and just move it over here into the permanent side. And now it'll show up here as the temporary one, but once I get 3 more in there, it'll bump it out. So if I bring in, go ahead.
I see the glasses up in the upper right with the 4D. There is, I found out, my brother goes to this place. There is a theater in Buena Park that is now, quote, 4D. And what they do is it's a combination of 3D plus the 4th dimension was they have snow coming down up from the ceiling, and if it's hot, you know, in the scene, it'll make it hot. And the chairs are all individual, and they're all like Star Wars used to be at Disneyland, where the whole thing rocks, the whole floor. Here, each seat rocks and stuff. It's really
well. When they used to have it at Disney World, they used to have when the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids came out.
Yeah.
They had a whole exhibit done on that, and the seats were rigged up that way. So there was a scene in the movie or in the animated in the ride where supposedly they shrunk the audience down, and you saw what looked like a box with the audience members, and they had movement in there, but the characters are so small you couldn't tell. And then when the baby picks up the building that's been shrunk with the audience, and it's kind of rocking it back and forth. Of course, the whole environment room rocked back and forth. And when the rat supposedly ran past your legs, you felt something go across the back of your leg. That was kind of freaky. But the weirdest one yet was when the dog turned around, looked into the camera, and sneezed, and you felt a spray on your face. So that was the weirdest effect. That was very 4D. That pulled the effect off real well.
Yeah, well,
because you can see people thinking it was really dog snot that got them. You know.
Yeah, I really want to, when he goes next time, on a good movie that I want to see. I want to go there to see it.
Okay, well, anyway, that was a quick preview of iOS 11. Is there anything anybody wants to see specifically? This is going to be a really now. Unfortunately, because of the iPhone size screen real estate, some of these features are going to be reduced or not available on an iPhone because there's just not enough screen real estate to make it practical.
Yeah.
But I think I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be a really nice improvement. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share, and we'll shoot the breeze for a bit before I move on.
Greg, does it sound like Apple is moving towards eventually integrating OS and iOS?
Yeah.
You know, that's a rumor that everybody thinks is happening. I don't know. I can't tell you. Apple won't say, obviously, because it's not to their advantage probably to say. Did anybody here watch the keynote that was out a few weeks ago? Did you watch the Worldwide Developer Conference keynote?
No.
You should. If you get a chance, you should watch it. I mean, it is 2 hours long, and you can go to either iMore or there's one of the other websites that has got a condensed version where you can watch the 2 hour keynote in about 8 minutes. It just highlights the stuff that's really important. I think it's worth watching because I like seeing what's coming up. I really do. And they showed a new iMac, a 27-inch iMac that they call the iMac Pro that can have something like 16 cores and it can hold something like 64 gigs of RAM. It's really ridiculous. They say the $5,000 base machine pimps out to like $16,000 by the time you add all the garbage to it.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this is temporary because supposedly there's going to be a new Mac Pro. We know it's not going to be the trash can cylinder style. It'll probably be along the lines of what everybody refers to as the cheese grater style, the last G5 series that they made, the aluminum one with the holes in it. It'll probably be along those lines because supposedly Apple has listened to the professionals moan and groan about the fact that they have no way to upgrade these things.
Well,
So
everything had to be on the outside. You wanted to add extra hard drives. Right now on my Mac Pro cheese grater, you've got a spot for 4, actually even more if you were really careful, hard drives internal. And
I've actually got a couple screwed into the bottom of the case because I had dead space down there on my old G4, which I don't use anymore. I'm going to have to donate it somewhere.
Well, I've got a situation, Greg, where excuse me, where Mark and I ended up. I had a customer give me his old Mac Pro, and come to find out, Mark wanted to find out if it was better than the one he had. And it ended up that they were both exactly the same model. So after I've got my 27-inch all set up now that he wanted, I've been researching parallel processing, give him mine and find a way, because he does videos, find a way to accomplish that, speed it up and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. I need to go. I'm sorry.
All right, Kenny.
Okay.
I just hit the minus up here in the corner.
That's it. Just leave meeting, end meeting, leave meeting.
You're still there. All right.
You see it, Ken?
Scroll to the bottom.
Right, lower right-hand corner.
Yep. If you scroll to the bottom, you get like a dock, and go to the right all the way. It says leave meeting in red.
Oh, there it is. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ken, take care.
This will be available up. I'll send you an email out when the video's up if you want to watch the second half. So before we move on, anybody got any issues or questions or whatever that we might be able to answer?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Bart.
Oh, okay. The other day I was playing around on iCloud. I put an appointment in on my iMac, and it didn't show up on my phone. And I went in and I checked all the settings on the phone, and it's connected to iCloud. Why aren't the two things syncing together? What do I have to do to get the computer to sync up completely with my phone?
I don't know. It should be working. Did you try? Did you try the opposite? Did you try putting a dummy appointment in on your phone and see if that shows up on the Mac?
No, I think I have in the past and it worked, but I wouldn't bet on it. I didn't do it the other day. I didn't go that far into it.
Are you using the default calendar application on both?
Yeah.
Not a third-party calendar application?
No.
I don't know, Bart. I'll have to look that up offline. I had that same problem. I use on my iPad, iPhone, and Macintosh. I use Fantastical because I happen to like the way it works, and it ties it ties in real good with the Max Calendar program. That and Busy Calendar, like two of the ones that are the most popular third-party calendar programs. But one of the things I notice is I use two-factor authentication. So whenever I do something on one, I get the request to put in a 6-digit code number or a 4-digit code number on another device so that it can verify that it's really me. And when you're using third-party apps, it doesn't like that so much. And it took me a while, because I had my head up my cloud, it took me a while to understand that there was a little more involved when you're using two-factor identification and third-party apps. It can work. Well, and I just did a Google search and found the answer for it. So I'd be willing to bet it's something in your iCloud settings. You could probably go into System Preferences, go into iCloud settings, and see if that's, let's see if we can do that or not. See if, where am I at here? Okay, desktop.
By the way, it also isn't sharing information on notes. I didn't check it on other programs.
Okay, come on, Speedy. You see my System Preferences folder?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go into iCloud here.
Right.
And sometimes just signing out and signing back in solves the problem.
Oh,
so
really?
Sometimes all you got to do is sign out, and when you sign back in, it kind of refreshes everything. But first off, make sure you got the ones that you want to be checked. Make sure calendars is checked, because if you uncheck it, they're no longer associated to each other.
I did that.
The same thing with notes, okay? And then you should be able to. I don't think there's any other options. If I uncheck that, I said that's just the way it is. Set it up, yeah, shit.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't do is sign out and sign on again.
Yeah, usually you don't have to do that. Usually I find just unchecking and checking it will refresh it to the point that it works again. I don't think there's anything specific in Calendar. Give me a moment. I'll go over here and look.
Is there anything I have to do in terms of on the phone?
No. That's why I'm saying I would try setting an appointment from the phone side. You want to make sure iCloud's turned on make sure you've got that turned on for the phone.
It is.
Well, I'll tell you, Greg, and other people, that two-factor identification, confirmation thing, it has really screwed me up when I'm trying to work on a person's computer and I need to download a app from the App Store or whatever. It used to be that you would take and put in your Apple ID, no, not Apple ID, your administrator password to allow it to go in. And now with this two-factor identification, what I got to do is call the customer. And sometimes I work this stuff late in the night, and I'm stuck till the next day, because of that stupid thing. I mean, it has its uses, but not for my needs, or I've got to find a way around it, or say, when she brings it in, have a way to disable two-factor.
You can just turn it off. Just turn it off. If you got an admin password, turn it off. And then when you take it back, or when you get her back there, bring it back on again.
Okay, Greg, is that in System Preferences?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Is that in System Preferences?
Yes.
Okay.
You're echoing now. Greg?
Go ahead.
You're echoing now.
Greg, how come we're hearing an echo?
Oh, everybody's echoing.
No, I know, but who's creating it? Because
you know what? For right now, everybody mute your microphone, and then when you want to talk, unmute it.
Hey, can I call you back later?
Sure.
Well, I'm on a conference call right now, so how's about in an hour or so? Okay. Bye.
So if you're still there, Bart, I don't see any reason. I don't see any settings here that on the calendar side here that you would have to change. I think it's all done through iCloud. I know that. So I would try signing out and signing back in and see if that works. And then worst case scenario, give me a call later today if it's still not working, and we'll try TeamViewer or whatever. I'll try to do a little research on Google and see if I can come up with an idea of why it's not working.
Okay, two things. Number one, I'll try that with signing in and on again. The other thing that Steve brought up, I set up that double
two-factor identification.
Two-factor identification crap. How do I disable it? Because I'm not happy with it at all.
Well, basically, I have the same question. Greg said it's in the control panel somewhere.
Well, hang on. I'm going to ask.
Yeah. Oh, how many of you guys, while Greg's looking, how many of you guys have Apple Watches? Show of hands.
I want one. Haven't gotten it yet.
Well, I'll tell you something. I was at Best Buy yesterday, and a lot of the Best Buys have a cage in their Apple area of open box stuff.
Oh, really?
And I saw Apple Watch for $199 or something like that. It's not the stainless steel. It's, you know, all these different things. But I found one thing, and they're $9.95. Well, wait a second. Before I even say it, nobody else has them except Greg and I guess. Okay, Greg knows it.
Well, I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I bought a refurb from Best Buy, a year ago, Thanksgiving or whatever it was, and so it was like $100 off of. They were $399 at the time, and I got it for like $303, whatever it was, the refurb, because that Best Buy had a deal, and then they had another $50 off if you were buying a refurb. And I bought it from Best Buy. Now they didn't have it in stock over here. Sometimes they have it in stock locally, but I ordered it through their internet, and they shipped it to the store over. Excuse me, they shipped it directly to me. The problem was the guy who had owned it before, who decided he didn't want it anymore or whatever, had linked his Apple Watch to his iPhone, which is normally what you would do. But then when he traded it back in, he forgot to unlink it, and it wouldn't let me connect up to it. The phone worked fine, but it wouldn't let me connect up to my iPhone because it still had this guy's name and password attached to it.
And that makes it very tough.
Sure did. I spent a couple of hours myself the first night screwing with it. It was supposed to be a Christmas gift, and I got it the week before Thanksgiving because I moaned and groaned to my wife that, hey, there was a deal. And she said, okay, but you can't open it till Christmas. And I said, well, let me just make sure it's okay. I don't want to lose 30 days or whatever it is on whatever warranty. I mean, it still had the full warranty. And so I screwed around with it for a couple of hours that night. Next day at work, in between user phone calls, that's when I still had a job, I screwed around with it for an hour or so with the Apple guy. And bottom line is, everything that they went through, bottom line was, this is locked to the other guy's account. And I said, yeah, I said that when I called you 2 hours ago. He says, well, here's what you can do. You can take it to the Apple store, take it with proof of purchase, because they don't know that you just didn't buy this used from somebody else and it's stolen. So take it with proof of purchase so they have something to go by, and they can manually clear it there at the Apple store. And the guy said, well, who'd you end up buying it through? And I said, I bought it through Best. And he goes, I don't know, I'd be tempted to call up Best Buy and just see if he can take it into one of their stores. So I did. That afternoon on the way home from work, I went into a Best Buy that was near work, took it in there, I had my paperwork with me, took it in there, they looked, and they said, yeah, you're right, it is locked in. That's something we got to take into consideration. And I said, yeah, because when the next series of these watches comes out, you'll be getting a lot of trade-ins or whatever that'll be locked up like this. So the guy came back out and he says, no, we have no tools to unbreak that. I can either give you your money back or I can give you another one. And I said, I'll take another one as long as it's not, the blemishes or whatever. I ended up getting a brand new watch in the deal because it was a screw up on their part that they hadn't got the guy who traded it back in to unlock it. And there was nothing they could do. So they could either give me my money back or trade it back in. So at that point in time, for the difference in money, I decided, well, I've saved myself a few dollars. They also threw in as a sorry we had to piss you off. They threw in the extended warranty, so that was a really good deal for me.
Oh.
So for $300, I ended up with, at the time, that they're that price now, but at the time they were $400. So I ended up with a brand new one with a band that hardly fit around my fat wrist. So I've bought a couple bands since then. But I got the extended warranty and I got a brand new watch out of the deal, and my wife let me wear it through for the following month. I didn't have to wait till Christmas to play with it. So
I thought she was being mean.
No. She was. I mean, I gave her an iPad for her birthday, for her anniversary. Our anniversary was just a few days ago, and I gave her the iPad about 3 months ago when the new iPad came out. Best Buy had them for another 10% off. So even though they're $329, Best Buy had it for $299. You had to order it. And it showed up at the store the following day. We went over and picked it up. And so we got a brand new current iPad, nothing, I think is what they like to refer to them as, with 32, I think it was 32, either 16 or 32 gig for $299.
Yeah.
And so she says, don't buy me a gift for our anniversary. Well, she got a gift anyway. But I said, yeah, I know. I bought a $300 gift for you a couple of months ago. But anyway, she still got something. I wanted her to have something to open up. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry about that.
So anyway, Janine, you were asking now, basically, I'm wearing a, there it is.
Yeah, I see.
You see this smash screen?
I just haven't been able to decide.
This was one of my customers / friends. And I said, what did you do? You know? And he's, he went to the gym, put his gym bag in the locker. Then he forgot and he looked at his watch. Oh gosh, take it off. What does he do? He sets it in front of the bag, of his gym bag. And when he came back, pulled out the gym bag, not thinking, and this was on the top shelf of the locker, and it went straight down to the cement floor. And so that's why it looks like that. Now, I've since taken it to the Apple store and asked them to give me a price on repairs. And this is an aluminum and first gen. And the thing is that it was $199 to fix it. And I didn't ask them about the warranty, so I've got to do that. But what I wanted to show you was, you see this right here is a rubber, flexible rubber surround that you can feed this into, and it keeps the screen just a little bit lower. Like I always tell people with the iPhones, you want it to have a ridge around it, so if you were to put it down and there was sand on the table or what's that?
He's the president of a Mac Club, the meeting right now. He's heading the meeting.
Oh.
Hey, Danny, how you doing?
Okay. So anyway, while I was at Best Buy yesterday, picking up a hard drive for.
It's old now, huh? Very low.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so.
Okay.
Steve, it still works though, Steve, even with the cracked face, right?
Yes, it's fully functional. I'm trying to figure out, get it to the screen there. There we go.
Crack. Yeah.
And but the thing is I was going to try and fix it myself, and I have another stainless steel one that I got from somebody. You know, people figure, okay, let you have it because they can't afford to fix it, or they don't want to fix it, or whatever. Or like when you have a car and you get your first scratch on it or something. So basically, he gave this to me when he went to get another one. And so the other one was a stainless steel, and it was, what was it? $249 to fix. And basically, they don't fix them. They just take them and put them in a pile somewheres, and they send you a new one or a refurb or something. But these things, somebody called me with 2 iPads that had broken screens, and he says, do you fix them? And I says, for my family, yes. Other than that, no. I says, I can do it. I'm good with small stuff, but it's just, I don't want the responsibility. Well, the one that was stainless steel somebody had popped the LCD off already, and there are quite a few little wires going between the LCD and the contents of the watch. And if you're not careful, if you don't know where something is and how to get to it carefully, you ruin it. There was a little flex circuit coil that went around the whole watch on the inside, and I don't know if that was an antenna or it might have been tied to the charging circuit for, the no-touch charging, no plug-in charging. But I'm using this. The one thing I do like, I wanted my watch to be the one with the stainless steel mezzanine loop thing band, and the thing is it was $699 or something. I said, I'm not spending $700 on a watch. I mean,
but you can get Apple sells the mezzanine bands for about $150.
Yeah, but
you can buy them off of Amazon for about $19.
Yeah.
Because I bought a gold one and a black one. I don't happen to have. I've got a regular white magnetic band on right now.
Yeah.
But I've got a black and a gold one, depending on if I'm dressing up a little bit or whatever. And I like the mezzanines real well because they're long enough that they fit around. Although I like the magnetic one too. I like the magnetic band here well. But I don't buy them from Apple. They're just overpriced as far as I'm concerned.
Right. And
but a band's a band. What the hell? So,
that's right. Well,
and somebody said, well, it's not going to last as long as an Apple one. Yeah. So what? If it lasts me a year for $18 or $19, I'll throw it out and put a different color on. Big deal.
Yeah.
Hey, does iFixit have anything on the Apple Watch?
Yes, they do. In fact, there was an article in one of them on one of the websites or whatever it is a couple of weeks ago or whatever about a kid in high school. Believe it or not, I think he was a junior. He was an electronics geek. He played around with computers and stuff and had an iPhone. And a friend of him gave him an iPhone with a cracked screen. And the kid did a little research and figured out how to get the part. For Google videos, there's dozens of people that show videos how to take these things apart.
Yeah.
And he's now making a $6,000 a month repairing watches and phones for people on the side while he's finishing high school.
No kidding.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of websites. He's gone to several different local places that call him up regularly to give him phones to be able to work on. He's about half the price of what everybody says is the going rate. So, I mean, it's doable like anything else if you're willing to put the effort into it.
Right.
And I'm sure he's gotten so good at it now. He does it so quick. He's coming out ahead,
Yep.
Wow, that's really good. The iPhone I happened to get from a friend of ours. What he did was he had his wife's iPhone, and he was using one of those cheap chargers, the little ice cube things, and he had it plugged in and something shorted out. And so he toasted the iPhone. But when we opened it up, I took a look at it, didn't see anything burned or anything. So I was taking it apart, and they use a lot of little flex circuits. And so they had a flex circuit that I thought was going under it, or it was double.
And glue.
Pardon me?
And glue.
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 Glue. GLUE.
Yeah.
Glue. A lot of glue. Apple uses a lot of glue.
Yeah. And the thing around that is heat. Okay. iFixit has a little bag that you heat up in the microwave. It's very similar to those things for loosening your muscles up. And you lay the thing on that, and it will soften the glue. They also have a new thing, which is like a plier with two suction cups, and you squeeze it, and it pops.
Right.
Yeah. And so, anyway, so I was taking the damn thing apart, and I thought it was glued together, John. You'd like this. And so what happened is they had two flex circuits crossing, and I figured they were tied together with glue. So rather than heating it, I just kind of pulled it apart, ended up finding they had crossed two flex circuits with the ball grid array type of soldering. And so they were crossing. So by pulling it apart, it broke that connection, because I was going to look and see how many parts I could salvage for myself.
Wow.
And then I had one just recently where a guy over at Leisure World thought, and I told the guy, you're not trained in repairs and you're not licensed, don't do it. And he took somebody's 27-inch and he wanted to upgrade the RAM, and he wanted to put in a solid state drive where, what is it? Otherworld Computing sells a thing that you put inside the back of the 27-inch iMac, and it sticks to the back, and then it gives you cables to go to the right spots on the motherboard.
Right.
And so what happened was, and he said, I finally found out he was using iFixit and trying to figure it out. Well, the only thing is, the dumb guy, he took and with anybody ever wants to look inside one of these things, the iMacs, the newer ones, the aluminum ones, the cable between the display and the logic board, are very short. And so what happens is if you just open it and go pull, it ruins everything. So I saw what he did, and he had done that, and he ripped the surface mount connector with, I forgot how many pins, but and ripped it right off the logic board. And so I tried to repair it, and I got picture, but it had a green bar down. So I found out that on one of the LCD panels I've got sitting in my storage room, that the connector is there, the same connector. So I'm going to try and get that off. And then I have a guy right around the corner here, a company that I used to do business with when I was a manufacturing engineer. And he has all the surface mount stuff because he does stuff for government work, and see if I can get that thing to work properly. That would be a nice.
I had a couple of customers, Steve, one who had a 27-inch iMac. It was late enough model that it was USB 3, but of course it was a slower regular drive, and it was a slower processor and all that. But processor-wise wasn't as big of an issue as much as the disk drive was. And she was talking about, maybe I'd just get a new iMac. And I said, well, tell me what you do with it. Well, what she did with it wasn't anything strenuous. It wasn't like a lot of movie encryption or anything like that. She just waited. She hated the fact that it took, like a minute and a half to 2 minutes to boot up. Yeah, really. So I was over there one day, and I had a solid state drive with me with an operating system that could work with hers. And I plugged it in the back, and I held down the option key and let it boot up to that one. And she goes, wow, that's a lot faster. Could we do that to mine? And I said, yeah, for about $200 or whatever, we can get yourself a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte, whatever you want to do. External hard drive, plug it into the USB, make sure it's a USB 3, plug it into the USB 3 port on the back, put a slab of Velcro on the back of the iMac and on the back of the, on the drive, and we Velcroed it to the back. We moved all of her stuff over onto that, because she only had a 500 gig hard drive originally. No, I think she had a 1 terabyte. We moved everything onto the 2 terabyte boot drive, and then we used, because she didn't even have a backup going at all, and we used Time Machine to use the internal drive for backing up her photos and her documents. So now whenever she boots up, it's invisible to her. She's booting up to that external drive mounted on the back, which is solid state, and she's got a backup. She got a lot more. It has to be 3 or 4 times faster just the solid state alone. I wouldn't even consider buying a computer with a non-solid state drive anymore.
Right. Well, a lot of that stuff is going that way. I have this friend, the guy that I got the watch from, he is a little bit on the cheap side, even for himself, which I find very strange, because he wants all these things, and so he buys something. He has buyer's remorse and stuff, but he buys stuff on eBay and other places, and I say, hey, if it's for yourself, you want it with a warranty and all that jazz. So I was somewhere yesterday, and he texts me and says, hey, on a MacBook Air, can I upgrade the memory? And I said, possibly, but it depends on the model, because some of the earlier ones had a way to do it, but as they progressed, everything.
They soldered it on. Everything was soldered on.
Everything is soldered on the logic board now, and that's even for the iMacs too. So my iMac that my son got
That's
me.
not necessarily a bad thing. The chips don't walk on you, so that's not a bad thing.
No, because the thing is, you're right. When I first started servicing Macs back in, Apple IIs back in 1981, we had socketed chips.
Yeah.
And it made fixing it very easy, but it also made the reliability kind of wonky. So, in fact, there was the Apple III, and the Apple II, it had what you call dual wipe, where the socket contact is here, and when you put the IC in, it wipes it on both sides of the leg, and so you'd get more reliable. Well, they decided on the Apple III, well, we're going to cheap out. We're going to have a single wipe. And so what happens is, if that moves or gets tarnished down in there, the thing goes, it fails. And so one of Apple's brilliant ideas was, okay, you're supposed to lift the front of the computer, and this was a cast aluminum frame on this thing, and take it up about an inch or two and drop it. Let the back leg stay, but lift it up the front and drop it. And I thought, oh God, just.
Steve, I can remember watching computer vision service techs. In their card cage, they used I think it was 18-inch square, roughly, circuit board, and would have 4K of memory or 16K of memory or something ridiculously like that, And you'd watch them slide into these they'd slide these cards vertically. They'd be standing cards. They'd slide them in vertically because, of course, from a heating standpoint, that made sense. The horizontal ones were horrible. The horizontal ones would sag something fierce, But then to ensure that they would fit in snugly, you'd watch the guy take and put his shoe up against this card and shove it in with his foot up against this thing. Now, you want to talk about some of the stupidest thing you ever seen in your entire life, and that was just the way they all did stuff back then.
Well, since I have access to different computers.
We're not keeping you awake, are we, Janine?
No, my back is hurting terribly, and I have to.
Well, that's the advantage of using an iPad. You can hold it any way you want to. So
until our arms get tired. But this is my final comment for now. The 27-inch iMac that my son said, Dad, you got to get a later system, more recent system. I had a problem. The hard drive in it was bad, and Apple had this deal where they had the drives custom made with internal temperature sensing. And come to find out, the sense wires go through one of the connectors, of the SATA connectors. And so what happened is, I have no way of accessing those, plus the fact Apple, when you could buy a terabyte for $129 or something at the time, Apple charged $300 and something, and it's like, there's no way I'm going to pay that. So I put a regular one in, and I got the adapter cable and everything, but there is no internal sensor on drives that that Apple doesn't order. So mine, it'll sit there, it'll be nice and cool and everything, and then all of a sudden, as it's been on, the fans speed up, and it gets to be a little annoying. But I gotta find a way to get that taken care of, or take and mount the drive outside, because it gets a bit noisy.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about backups. Let me see. Raise your real hand because it takes too long to go over. It takes too long to check this computer hand thing. Who all is doing backups on a regular basis?
I do it automatically.
And
you're using like Time Machine or something along those lines, Janine?
Yeah, I don't think it's Time Machine, but one of them. Yeah.
Well, Greg, one of the things I find out is, in fact, this lady that I'm working on these things, that I had to go out to buy a hard drive, a 1 terabyte hard drive, 2 terabyte hard drive for to use as backup. I asked her, "You backing up?" And she says, "No." And so I says, "You got to." My recommendation has always been the quickest, easiest way is Time Machine. Quickest.
I've had some bad experiences with Time Machine. So
well, I tell you, I had bad experience with 2 hard drives on my wife's computer, and she panicked, and I panicked because she's now got, a better income than I'm able to do. And so what happens is she wakes me up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, and she says, "My computer, it won't start up or it won't boot." And I says, "Is it making a clicking noise?" And she says, "Yeah." I says, "I know what it is. Go to work. By the end of the day, when you come home, it'll be ready. It'll be back to everything back on it." And I have had no problems with Time Machine. I even had one that recognized that it was a different computer that I was backing up, trying to attach it to. And it says, "Do you want to make this one go for this computer now, for the newer computer?" And if you said yes, what it does is it does some kind of update and now makes that drive tied to the new computer, and the old computer you can't use it on anymore. But no, I recommend that because number one, it's free, and number two, it's this deal of going back in time visually, graphically, GUID, and pick the file you want and say restore. And it takes it, and you can watch it. It takes the file off to the side. It shuts off the animated screen or the screen going back in time, and you see it going back right into the folder. And
I'll try it again.
Pardon me?
I'll try it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's basically in the Unix world. It's called an rsync. It's an incremental backup.
Right.
And I've written multiple backup programs over the course of the years that I worked for various companies that did one form or another of an incremental backup, both on proprietary operating systems and also on Unix and Linux-based systems. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the only way to go. Now, having the visual component to it, the way Apple does it, their interface, once you sort of get an understanding of it, what you might think about, Janine, is you can type in Google, Take Control. I've got quite a few of their books.
Okay.
And their books are like $15. They're pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And they have one on Take Control of Time Machine that's wonderful.
Okay.
And gives you a real good thorough. In fact, I just recently bought their Take Control of clouds, and which is what I'm going to talk about. And it's amazing. The guy who's it's Tidbits is the people who have published those books for years.
Right.
And they've just sold the book division off to one of their most prolific writers, Joe Kissel. And Joe decided to do something different. If you bought this book, anybody who buys any of his books from this point on or whatever, you're invited to a webinar along this line. And so he's having one this afternoon and he had one Thursday morning, which was the first hour dedicated to questions and answers that people have sent in regarding this. And then, but you automatically get on his list, and he sends you an email invite to watch his webinars. They'll be available on YouTube at some point in time.
All right. Back up for just a second. Take Control website.
Take Control. Right? Yeah. I think you can either go to Tidbits and get the link from them, or you can just type in Take Control books, and it'll take you to Joe's site. And I've been very happy with the quality of the work that they put together. Plus, I like the fact that you get free updates whenever they become available. So
Right.
when I download them, when I download them in all three formats: Mobi, PDF, and ebook, just so that I have them compatible with anything I want. But they've got a listing of everything I've ever downloaded. So if I don't happen to have it on my phone and I need it, I can go ahead and get it off their website.
Yeah, it's just like Apple's doing with the App Store. I think that's fantastic.
And once you get on his list, every now and then he'll offer a deal where you buy 2 books and the third is free, or something along those, or at least Tidbits did. So I'm sure he'll end up maintaining the same deal. So there'd be times where I was going to buy, Mastering the iPhone. It was like iPhone 6 or whatever. It was marvelous. But I couldn't get my wife to read it. She'd read like the first 3 pages. For the love of me, I can't think of their names offhand. Adam Angst and his wife Tanya. They're the ones who own Tidbits.
Right.
And they had tremendous amount of graphics, and Joe's the same way. I mean, if he's talking about iCloud's system panel, it may be only on Sierra operating system, but at least it's up there and you see a graphic representation of what to do.
Because
so if you're having a hard time.
Some people need to be, they're visual learners.
Yeah.
And
I like the fact that he's going to, not only is he going to maintain the books and kind of get that off, because that's always been a little bit of a thorn in their side. They'll still write, but now you got somebody who's doing this seriously, and that's going to be his full-time thing. But I like the fact that not only are the books updated, but like when High Sierra comes out here in September, October timeframe, he's already promised that he'll have an update to everything if anything changes along those lines. So that's pretty cool. I like the fact of getting that. I've gone more and more to ebooks, which I find is a much better, because you can search them. That's the main reason.
Right.
I can do a search on the damn thing. So if I'm looking something up. So I'm a big fan of their books. I really am.
How many people, Greg asked how many people are using Time Machine. How many people are using cloud?
Yeah, any kind of cloud backup. Anybody doing any kind of cloud backups?
Okay.
Cloud works just automatically on your things if you have.
Unless you turn it off.
Unless you turn it off. That's right.
But what a lot of people don't realize is with Apple's iCloud, if you have an Apple iCloud account and it's free, it takes nothing. It doesn't even have to be an @Mac or an @Me or an @iCloud. It just 5 gigs is free, but hey, 5 gigs is better than no backup.
Right.
And so you've got a couple of options when you do that. I mean, you do get 5 gigs up front. Most people, if you don't,
I'm paying 99 cents a month now for 50 gigs.
I'm paying $2.99 for 200 gig.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll never use more than 50.
Well, you probably won't in normal stuff. I'm starting to put movies and things like that up there, so it's gonna end up taking a lot more. I'm at about 47 gigs right now, so I'd be right at the 50 gig limit. But I decided to go ahead. Yeah, I decided to go ahead. Go ahead.
If you go to iCloud for your backups, is that also incremental? Because I remember people saying
no, it's not. It's not. There's very few systems out there that are incremental. Almost all of them are duplicates.
Okay, so basically it takes and does a backup, and it takes, they said the upload time can be days.
Well, the first time it is, because remember, I mean, I've been using, my primary cloud backup service is Carbonite. And I signed up with Carbonite about 4 years ago. So Carbonite costs you $59.99, $60 a year. Costs you $60 a year, basically. So it's $5 a month is what it costs you. I'm very happy with Carbonite. There's a couple of things from a backup standpoint. It works great. You're right. I've got roughly 250 gigs stored up at Carbonite right now. Carbonite for. Go ahead.
Carbonite, it does your applications, doesn't it? It doesn't do
no, it doesn't. By default, it doesn't. You can force it to do your applications. Why would you bother? Almost all the applications you get off the internet anyway, so you can just re-download them again if that's the case.
Okay. All right. I just did.
I had it for a year.
I'm sorry. What?
I had it for a year and it didn't do anything other than wouldn't do the operating system.
That's right. By default, it doesn't. You can force it to do that if you really want to. Here's the deal with Carbonite. Carbonite is $60 a year for a single computer
Right.
or as much storage as you need, provided it's on the internal drive. So if I've got a 10 terabyte internal drive, I get 10 terabytes potentially of storage at Carbonite if that's my boot drive.
Okay.
So you can play that game. I've tried all the tricks. I've tried aliases. I've tried soft links. I've tried hard links in the Unix world. I've tried them all to see if I can pull a fast one, because that's the kind of sleazy asshole that I am. Excuse my language, jerk that I am. But you know, fair is fair, and they're right. Okay, what saved my bacon? First off, it was Carbonite had been. I think I'd heard Leo Laporte on his tech TV show way back when talk about it, and I thought, well, it's got to be halfway decent, so I'll give it a try. And they don't sell it monthly. You got to buy it on a year basis. Now, what they do, and what they did this year is, if after you've been with them for a while, they hit you up to get that money early, and give you an extra 2 or 3 months. So instead of 12 months, I got 15 months or 14 months for the same 1 yearly rate. Believe me, I've gotten shafted in the past by deals like this. So I record everything down in the calendar when this should be good too, so I don't get bugged about it down the road. And saying, hey, wait a minute, I paid for 14 months. Here's a copy of the invoice. I should be good till such and such a date. I'm just paranoid that I'm going to get the short end of the stick. Here's what convinced me that having not only an internal backup inside the house somewhere, but having a cloud backup convinced me. One day, a couple of years back, I was going to upgrade the internal drive on this particular Mac. So I dug out one of my 2 terabyte drives. This is only a 500 gig solid state in here. And I own both Super Duper and Carbon Copy Cloner. They're both full disk backup programs.
So do I.
Both of them, if you use if you buy it, you get the incremental options. So you've got essentially rsync, the same as what iCloud has. The same as what Time Machine has.
Okay.
But I just wanted to make a clone copy, and you can do that with the free copies. So I set a drive up. I went through all the first aid to make sure the drive seemed to be okay. I went ahead and did a clone backup. My wife and I went to dinner. Came back a couple of hours later. I saw that it was finished, but it had a couple of error messages. And like an idiot, I didn't pay attention to the error messages. I said, oh, I know it's okay. Besides that, I got Time Machine, and I got 2 or 3 others being backed up here, so no big deal. So I went ahead and loaded the new operating system and used the data migration to be able to pull stuff back off. Everything came over except my photos. Probably the most critical thing that I really gave a rat's ass about. Now, over the years, I've got almost all I've got about 50,000 slides I haven't bothered to get off my Tookus and start scanning them. I'm going to do that hopefully in the next couple of months. But these were just digital photos. I only had about 5,000 or 6,000 photos that I had on, but it was just the fact that I had to restore them. I knew I had them on some on this drive, some on this drive, some on this drive, some on CDs. I know I had them all. It was just the fact that I had to do it that way.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, wait a minute. I've never tried restoring anything from Carbonite. Let's see how well that works. So I went ahead and I went through the restore process, which of course, first thing it does is it stops its regular backup. And it goes to the restore. It takes a second or two before it lets you get into their site and look down where you want to go. So I went down and decided I was going to restore the entire photos directory. And so I went ahead and started it. And an hour or two went by, and it didn't look like anything was happening. So finally I thought, well, the hell with it. I'll give it, because I know I've got my stuff backed up, God knows where, but somewhere in this house it's backed up. So I came back the next morning. By golly, about a third of it was done. It took about a day and a half to restore the files, 40 gigs worth of photos. That's what it was. It took about a day or day and a half or whatever it was to restore them. But I got them all back. And that convinced me right then and there, this is the way to go. Now I wanted to cover my butt in case the Carbonite building burned down. So when so, you know, that possibility exists. Let's face it, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all encrypted. It's all that. Here's what Carbonite's got going for it as far as I'm concerned, and Apple has the same thing, is I can be on my iPhone, I can be on my iPad, I can be on my wife's iMac, I could be on the company's PC or Linux box, and I could access Carbonite and download my files onto that. Mm-hmm. So I like the fact that I could get them wherever I was, anywhere. I could go to a library. If the library allowed downloads, and it wasn't coming from a porn site, I could at least get my files or a resume or a job offer or some kind of a coupon or whatever it was off of Carbonite that way, and that works really good because I've tested it out in all the various combinations. It is slow backing up, and the reason it's slow backing up is because your upload speed is so damn slow. I mean, I have 30 meg download speed, and what is it, 2 or 3 upload speed. That's just typical. And so if it takes you a day, a week or so to back up all your stuff, what do you care? You weren't doing it before, so what difference does it make?
Yeah.
You know, have another backup locally in case your system goes down or whatever it is. But if you're going to look for an online backup, once you get it backed up online, you're good to go, because now it's, at this point in time, it's incremental from this point. It's only going to back up stuff that's changed. You're not going to have multiple versions like you would with Time Machine, but it will back up whatever's current on your system. Here's what I don't like about Carbonite. And I've written these guys recently. I find it's kind of a pig. And it may be because this was originally written for PCs that they've moved into working for Linux and Unix and Macs and everything else. But that's no excuse. 30 years ago, when I worked at Hughes Aircraft, I figured out a way to speed up the backup process. Everybody said I was nuts. And the way we used to do backups at Hughes, when I worked there, is literally we'd put a tape on, and we'd tell the system, write any file to tape that's been updated since this date and time yesterday. Logically, that makes sense. So the system would go out there, find a file, write it to tape, and you'd watch this big 2,400-foot reel move like that, just a little bit, because the files were good size, but it didn't take up any space on the tape. And then maybe 4 minutes later, it'd find another one that would do the same thing. The problem was it tied the tape drive up for 2 or 3 hours at a whack. And sure as heck, back then we really didn't have interconnectivity between computers like we have today. So somebody would call down on we only had 5 or 6 people working, well, we only had 5 people at the most working on a computer vision system. They'd call down, they needed to have a file restored from, let's say, 3 or 4 days ago. We had online records and everything. So I'd have to go interrupt my backup, take that tape off, put their tape on, restore their file, take that tape off, put my backup tape back on, and start the whole process over.
Greg, you're going back too far, man.
Let me finish, Steve. Let me finish.
No, I was just saying, I've experienced that.
That's the way that worked. And I think to this day, that's sort of the way that a lot of these backup systems work. Yeah. Instead, I conceived of the idea of why not making an offline list of files that need to be back up, and then just find those files one at a time off the list and write them to tape. Well, that 3-hour process went down to about 20 minutes. So I only had to tie the tape drive up for like 20 minutes. I could sure as hell delay a user 20 minutes before to get his files back on. Yeah. So I've always been a fan of that. And every backup program I've ever written, and I've written, like I said, 3 or 4 of them over the years for different operating systems, I've done it with that idea based in mind. What Carbonite does, and Backblaze and a lot of them seem to do something very similar, is it looks to me like it has a set schedule, which I don't control. I don't like that. I wish I could control, but that's what I've asked them to offer these enhancements down the road, is it's just looking all the day for updated files, but it doesn't immediately write them to the system. It waits until it waits to a specific time and then starts writing the files to the system. That's fine. I may only have, let's say, 400 megs of updated files. It should only take maybe 10, 15 minutes to back up, to my way of thinking in the upload. Even if it took 2 or 3 hours, I don't care. I find that Carbonite takes off. Now you can set a lower priority, but it takes off and it starts backing up, and it drives the fans in this laptop. I don't notice the hit on the access on the computer because I got 16 gigs of RAM inside this thing, so that's not a problem. What I notice is it's doing so much work. The heat is the temperatures are going up, and the fans are running wide open all the time. Not that it's a problem. The computer will shut itself down if it's an issue. It's gotten to the point that it bugs me listening to the fans. Right. So what I end up doing. Go ahead, Steve.
Look on the bottom of your computer.
It's raised, Steve. Nothing's blocking the vents.
Yeah.
I've gone through all this. I've learned the hard way.
Oh.
So what I find myself doing is pausing it. And they have a smart feature. You pause it. By default, it pauses for 24 hours. Like it's paused right now because I don't want it coming on while we're doing anything. I don't want to lose any network connectivity right now. So I'll go ahead and pause it. And then I just got to remember when I go to bed at night to unpause it. I keep saying I'm going to set up an automator to do that, and I haven't done it yet. So I'd like it to back up from midnight to 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever it is. Because you know what? If I lose something during the middle of the day, I've got my own internal backups. I'm only worried about the house burns down or something like that. So that's one issue is I want to find out how exactly they're doing this. I want them to do this incrementally all day long, make a list, and then at night write the friggin' list to their system or whatever. But give me hours to be able to set when I want it to do it and when I don't want it to do it, so I don't have to manually do it by myself. You can't do that with Time Machine because Time Machine used to have that. Time Machine has that issue. Every hour on the hour, it checks to see if anything's been updated. However, you can turn Time Machine off. You can get a free program called Time Machine Editor, which is nothing but a scheduler. That's all it is. It's just a cron table scheduler. And you can say, okay, I want you to, instead of running every hour on the hour, during the day from, let's say, 8 to 5 when I use the computer the most, since I'm retired now, I want you to check at noon. I want you to check at 10. I want you to check at 1. I want you to check at 4. Then I don't want you to check again till midnight. And then from midnight till 6 a.m., I don't care because I'm not going to be on the system anyway. Let it do it every hour if it wants to then. You can schedule it with a third-party utility called Time Machine Editor. It's a freebie, and it works great. You turn Time Machine to off and use the Time Machine Editor to control the Time Machine application, and that works terrific. So what I want Carbonite to do is to implement some kind of an option along those lines. Should be real easy to add another button in here that says schedule on or off, kind of a deal, so that I can have it only back up when I'm not on the system, because I'm not too worried about it since I've got Time Machine running the rest of the time. Nowadays, I don't even use Time Machine Editor anymore because this system, my network and everything in here is so efficient after learning the hard way, especially when my wife started watching all her YouTube videos. I had to come up with another answer, and I've got enough horsepower now that it's not a problem. I don't notice a hit anymore. So that's one issue. I also use iCloud, and iCloud happens whenever you make any. iCloud's kind of interesting. Whenever you make any kind of a change, it defaults to desktop and documents, although you can control that elsewise. That anything you put in your documents folder or anything on the desktop, within seconds, iCloud is uploading to the iCloud, uploading to Apple's cloud storage. Trying to get these names clear sometimes is kind of a jank. And it does it almost immediately. I can find it. I mean, it's the same thing as when it's working for you, Bart. It's the same thing as when you change, a calendar appointment. When I put something in the calendar that I want the family calendar and the Greg Locke calendar and the Marsha calendar are shared between me and my wife. So whenever I do something that she might schedule something for me, I can hear her computer, even though the laptop's closed, it's still powered up. I can hear it ding whenever I make a change on the calendar here at my side that's going to potentially affect her. I can hear it ding over there, and I can hear her phone and my phone and all the other ones do that as well. So I like that feature. That's outside of iCloud services, but technically it's part of it. Even though you're not paying, that's just a freebie you're getting from Apple. Is the sync between contacts, mail, and calendar options, and that works extremely well as far as I'm concerned. What I decided is my pictures were becoming important enough to me that I didn't want to have to rely on Carbonite. That's nothing against them, but I wanted to have the same pictures available to me on all my personal devices, and if the wife wants it, she can look at them as well. So that's why I decided to go. That's why I decided to go with the additional storage from Apple, because Apple does give you free 5 gigabytes for free. But if you're storing photos up there, if you're just doing documents, probably not going to be a big deal. But if you're storing photos, you're going to run out of space real fast. And somehow for $36 a year seems pretty cheap to have 200 gigs of additional storage. Now, I'm paranoid enough that I also have Google Photos. Google Photos is free. if you were willing to store a low-res version, a low-resolution version of the photo. Some versions better than no versions, the way I look at it. You can store high-res versions, but you start paying for it beyond, I think, 10 gig or whatever it is. But you can store as much as you want in low-res photos that Google decides for free. And so as far as using Google Drive, I'm a little paranoid when it comes to Microsoft or Google as far as what they're going to release to other people or not release to other people. I don't have any pictures that I have to worry about. If I do, I delete them pretty damn quick. So I don't worry about that so much, but because it's usually just family junk or whatever it is, or bad pictures of the dogs or something like that. So I'll have another copy of the photos. I don't care. Besides, some of my family members subscribe to Google Photos. That makes it easier for them to get them. So that's why I use Google Photos. So besides Time Machine, besides Apple Backup, besides Carbonite, and besides Google for Photos only, I've got one other option. I ended up buying myself, I ran across a deal through one of the websites where one company had little flash drives, I mean really little flash drives, that were 128 gig, and they were on sale for $8 a piece.
Oh.
And fool that I was, I don't know whether it was a misprint or what, but I only bought 2. I should have bought 50. Because now they don't even offer it, and the 64 gig is about $24 of the same size. So I bought 2 of these. I was looking to do 2 things. Currently, I'm using Apple's iWeb to what little maintenance I do on the club's website, because I had built it in iWeb, and that's the only web presence that I'm maintaining at all anymore. So I saw no reason to go out and buy another web program and read. I'll do it someday, but I just saw no reason to it. The problem was it does not work. It hasn't worked in the last 4 operating systems, iWeb. You can start it up. It appears to work. It just doesn't for whatever reason. Not everything gets uploaded. I've tried manually FTPing the files up there. It just doesn't work right. The last operating system that iWeb worked 100% in was Mavericks. So I partitioned this internal drive with 50 gigs just to have the breathing space, and I put a copy of Mavericks on there. And whenever I want to do an update to the club's website, I reboot the computer, hold the option key down, boot to that other partition, and I'm up and running in Mavericks. I make whatever changes, upload it, make sure it's there, reboot the computer, let it go back over to Sierra, which is what I'm running on this one right now. That's fine. I only have to do it for an hour or 2 a month. It's no big deal. But I hated losing 50 gigs out of 500 gigs of storage on a solid-state drive. So I had put it on a spinning drive. That worked okay. But I thought the smart thing to do would be to put it on a flash drive of some sort. It's backed up, so I can get to it another way. That's no big deal. So I took one of these little 128K drives, put it in here, partitioned it to a 50 gig partition, and then the balance for, I call it extras. How brilliant is that? And if I come over, you can actually see it. I'm going to go ahead and share my desktop. Let me go over to the Finder here.
I don't know which one. Oof.
So you can see it right now over here in the upper right-hand corner. You see my main backup drive. Then I've got this one called GJL iWeb drive and extras. Those 2 are that little flash drive. That's what it looks like. It barely sticks out. Now, another reason why I liked it is I can leave it in the laptop and pretty much put the laptop in my case and not have to worry about snapping those off. So you can see I put an iWeb icon on top of this one here. And that's all it is. There's hardly anything on that drive. In fact, I've still got 30 gig of it available. I just left myself an extra 20 gig of space just in case. The extras is just a temporary holding spot for junk I want to get off the main hard drive here. Then I've got a GJL Photos backup, which I'll talk about. You can see my Time Machine backup is mounted here. And then I've got 2 drives down here on the bottom, one called iTunes and one called Movies. Those are movies that I've gotten them from Apple, but if you don't have an internet connection, you can't play them. So I usually download them and store them over there, the movies I bought off of iTunes. So let me get back over here to normal again.
Where's the photo from? Glacier?
Yeah, you know what I did when Sierra first came out? I just did a Google search on Sierra images, High Sierra images, and downloaded about 50 of them, and I have them change every 5 minutes just to have, so I don't know where they're from. They're just pictures I grabbed off the internet, just so that I get a change in the laptop. I wanted something to kind of reflect the operating system.
Nice.
Greg, an addendum on Time Machine. Years ago, until recently, I was using one large, because you had to plug it in, rather than operating off the particular computer you're using. And I was using backup for 3 different computers. It worked fine. It's just Time Machine recognized one or the other, which other one you were plugged into. Well, for some reason that stopped working well, and now I've lost it, and good riddance. But I'm getting 2 My Passport 1 terabyte drives from Micro Center. They got 4 left at a special price of $59.95. You have to go on the internet to reserve them. If anyone
How
wants.
many gigs was that?
Are those spinning drives or solid states? They're probably spinning drives, right?
They're hard. My Passport are hard drives. I don't think they're solid state.
No.
You can get, they've had the My Passports at one time or another over at Costco, 2 terabytes for $79 or $89. I don't know if they still got them or not.
I think it was, Greg, I think it was 84. And I just bought a 2 terabyte, they call it Easy Store. It's the same size as all the others that are being talked about. And I got it for $69. The only trouble is I ordered it, I tried to order it online to be picked up at a certain store. Well, I had so much trouble dealing with their things and filling out, because I was buying it with my customer's credit card and who's going to pick it up, me and all this jazz. So I switched to the Irvine store, had the same problem. So I just called Best Buy. When I got there to the Irvine store, they scanned my phone, because you get an email with a barcode. They just scanned that, pulled up the order, and she says, "That's waiting for you at the Mission Viejo store." I says, "No." I told her exactly which store I wanted. And it took them almost an hour. I was sent to the Magnolia setup to waste some time. And so to get it to transfer, not physically, but just all the computer status and stuff. But anyway, finally got it, and I just took it out of the box because I'm waiting for a transfer to finish. But these are the little things, and they are so nice. It's amazing. I spent $69 plus tax for this. I spent $9.99 for 140 megabytes way back when. And it's like technology is just moving so blasted fast.
Well, there's one thing I didn't show you, and I meant to show you when I was on that screen. Let me share that back out again.
Yeah.
Okay, you should be able to see my desktop plus all the other clutter, right?
Yeah.
I've also got over here on the right-hand side, you can see one's called, it's a little hard to see with the screen that I've got on there, but it's GJL Photos Backup. Again,
Yeah.
Mr. Paranoid, after making one mistake with my photos, I've got myself covered in 60 ways to Sunday. I'm using Carbon Copy Cloner every night. This is one of those, the GJL Photos Backup is 128 gig, one of those little flash drives. I've only got 2 USB ports on this particular MacBook Pro, but I've got, this one's about 4 years old, and I've got one of the Belkin, what they call it, Thunderbolt expansion ports plugged in. Because when I was using this for work, carrying the laptop back and forth every day, I'd get home and I'd have to plug in 5 or 6 different things. Well, right now with this Belkin expansion port on the back, and of course, every time Apple brings out a new model laptop, everything is discontinued, so that's how that works. This particular Belkin expansion port has two Thunderbolt ports on it, has a FireWire 800 port. I've still got a lot of old FireWire accessories, including my scanner, my slide scanner. It has a physical Ethernet connection on it. It has 3 USB 3 ports on it. And then plugged into one of those USB 3 ports, I've got a 7-port USB hub, because I had at one time 4 2 terabytes that had all my iMovies and my TV shows and my iTunes all plugged. I'm down to 2. I'm sort of thinning that crowd down a little bit. So consequently, I could get rid of I could let the 2 USB ports on the Mac itself, on the PowerBook itself, be used for something else. And that's why I'm using the iWeb one plugged into one and the Photos backup plugged into the other that I can remove if I need to. So every night at, at 2 a.m., 1:59 a.m., you can see it as it's looking up on the screen, Carbon Copy Cloner looks at my Macintosh hard drive and pulls the just my Photos directory under Users. So if I open up Users here, and I look at Gregory Locke, the minus means I'm pulling some files out of there, and I scroll down to Photos, you can see Photos is, I don't know what that one here is. You can see Photos is checked, or the Pictures folder is checked. So everything that's inside the Pictures folder is being backed up to this GJL Photos backup every night at 1:59 a.m. Now, it's an incremental backup. It's not a versioning backup, but it's just, I just want to clone of whatever's there. I just want to clone it over there. So again, I've always got my Photos backed up. Like I said, 47 different ways till Sunday. I keep a full resolution version of the Photos on my computer. Revert changes. I don't want to change it for right now. In fact, that brings us up another issue. There's an option. I should have showed it while I was there. Helps if you're brighter than a light bulb. And I'm not. I'm running on dim right now. So when you go into well, let's go into Photos. You'll see what I'm talking about. So on my iPhone and my iPad, and both those happen to be 128 gig because I went nuts. I found myself the first couple of times having a 16 or a 32 gig, and I'd get to the edge with too much stuff on it, and then I'd have to start deleting stuff when I didn't want to delete stuff. So I just thought, you know what, for another $100, the hell with it, I'll just get the extra storage. That way I can't ever say, gee, I wish. If you buy the best, you can't bitch about not having the best. That solves that problem right there.
Yes.
So if I go into Photos and I go into Preferences on Photos, can you see my Photos directory there?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to go into Preferences. It's taking its own sweet time. Come on. There we go. You've got a couple of options here when you're looking at Photos. If you're looking at Photos, I'm talking Photos, not iPhoto or Aperture, because those are both older applications. Still work fine. As you can see, I've got checked on that I want to use the iCloud photo library. The only option I get is to either uncheck it or to pause for a day. So I want my photos in the library to be full res versions of what I've got here on this Mac. I got the storage. I'm paying for it. What do I care? I also want any originals that are in the iPhoto up in the iCloud, if you want to call it that. So that means pictures that I take on the iPhone or on the iPad when I'm in a Wi-Fi area, because I don't use cellular data for that. When I'm in a Wi-Fi area, it will upload those pictures to iCloud. So now I've got it backed up there. And then if this Mac is up and running, Photos don't even have to be running on this Mac. If this Mac is up and running, it will download those originals. So I have a backup of them here on this Mac as well. So now I've got 2 complete backups, not counting Carbonite and my own little Carbon Copy Cloner and all the other kind of things going. Okay, let's talk about optimized Mac storage. Just like I said, the versions that are being stored in iCloud are going to be full res versions of photos and videos. And originals will also be stored on this Mac if... Go ahead, Steve, what?
Oh, you already closed it. I just was going to have you scroll down to see what other photos you had about the club. Not important right now.
What's going on? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, but you're jerky.
Oh, okay.
Now you're real jerky. That wasn't
Yeah,
meant.
something else is going on, and I don't know what it is.
If you got time, I got a question.
Yeah, you're totally out of sync.
I don't know what's causing that.
Maybe some back going on.
Well, Janine was in sync. John was in sync, I believe. I'm in sync.
I don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay.
I'm
John,
looking.
go
I don't
ahead.
see anything.
Where'd John go?
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. You had a question, you said?
Yeah. This is probably a very, very simple thing to do, but I'm so tired of every time I have to type in a password, that damn keychain pops in. How do I stop that?
There should be an option setting in preferences. What do you do for passwords? Because I'm using one password. I had my brother-in-law here, and he said he uses the Safari password chain and stuff, and I just like one password. We had it demonstrated. I don't know if you were here that day. That was, I think, our first real meeting. And the thing is that it just is so blasted easy. You know, you go to a site, it automatically brings that to the top of the list for one password, and then you just click on it, and it puts your stuff in. It used to, and I have not up to date any means.
Yep. It's mostly asking if you want to save that password into keychain.
Yeah, that's when you first make it. But the thing is
well, I always cancel out of it because it just bugs me to heck.
Well, the thing is it depends on which way you want to go. You know, say, for instance, it'll pop up and it'll say a password already exists for this site. Do you want me to update it? And it switches them out, and it keeps a history. But the thing is that, you know, if there's got to be a way in there to disable that, and you're in Safari when that happens, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then what you got to do is go to Safari preferences and check the security, or just, you know, whatever there are of options on there. And now, see, I'm seeing Greg's. Okay, there we go. Yeah, now we're back in speed. Take and disable it in the system preferences. Check there. I could do that. I don't know how I would do that without getting rid of this screen here with the deal. So I can't look. Oh, wait. Exit screen mode. Full screen mode. Let's do that. There we go. Oh, no, I'm still seeing Greg's.
Okay, let me finish up what I was doing here before we go any further.
Go for it.
All right, so I've killed photos. I just took a snapshot of the preference file here. Something with photos was acting weird, and I don't know what it is, so we'll come back to that. So anyway, the other options you have are download originals to this Mac. By default, iCloud keeps a full res version up in the cloud if you've got enough storage, and I want a full res version on this Mac. So no matter what, I've got 2 full res versions of it anywhere else. Carbonite is a full res backup. My Photos backup is a full res backup. The Google one isn't. The Google one's a freebie, so I don't care so much about that. Now here's this option here called Optimize Mac Storage. Essentially what that's doing is that's still keeping a full res copy in the cloud. It's keeping a copy here on your Mac. But if you start getting short of disk space on your Mac, it starts to optimize them. In other words, it keeps screen resolution versions on your Mac, just like that option would work on your iPad or your iPhone. It keeps lower resolution versions for you to look at on your devices. And when you go to do any editing, then a high-res version is downloaded. So if you're running short of disk space on your Mac, that's one way of solving some of the problem, is to click on Optimize Mac Storage, provided that you've got enough space up there at iCloud to keep full resolution versions of your photos. Okay, then there's My Photo Stream. My Photo Stream is a carryover from the older operating systems before they really had iCloud, back when they had Mobile Me and all the other kind of Mickey Mouse names that Apple came up with. You can use My Photo Stream. My Photo Stream keeps the 30 days of the most recent pictures that you've taken available. That's still available. You can still use My Photo Stream. iCloud Photo Library kind of solves that problem. But My Photo Stream, it's an option that you can turn on or turn off, except that at the end of 30 days, they're gone. It only keeps the 30 days most. It would just give you a short way of seeing, creates an album called My Photo Stream, and it shows you whatever's happened in the last 30 days, whether it came from your iPad, your iPhone, or a third-party camera that you've plugged in and downloaded. Everything goes, if you've got My Photo Stream turned on, everything goes into that, up to 1,000 pictures, up to 30 days. And then they start getting deleted out of the stream. That was just a convenience feature that Apple had before they started offering the iCloud option. Please turn your microphones off. Somebody's making some noise that's really making it hard there. Okay, so you have the option of using My Photo Stream if you want to. I personally leave it unchecked. There's no reason for it. And then iCloud photo sharing. If you enable the iCloud photo sharing, that allows you to pick specific albums that you can share out to other people, family members, other Macs, the internet, whatever you want to do. You get a email address, you get a web link that you can email to everybody that they can put wherever they want in their notes or whatever, and whenever they click on it, it takes them directly there so they can see that. The nice thing is I can go to any computer because of iCloud and look at my photos and see and download them to that particular computer, just like anything else I can off of iCloud. So that comes in real handy from that standpoint. And that's one of the reasons why I like taking advantage of that, because I want to give myself as many options as possible to not delete anything. So that was kind of a quick and short, dirty note. Okay, so let's talk about other backup options that you have out there. One of the ones that I use, the one that I use is Carbonite. And I just was there. Boy, I'm really good at this today. And I'm going to bring up Safari. So I just did a simple Google search and typed in cloud backup. And you can see right off the bat, I got all the, of course, Google's going to be top at their own list because they want to sell you storage just like Microsoft, just like Amazon. Everybody and their brother wants to sell you service. Some really good deals.
Do you know anything about iDrive?
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's bad or good. I mean, I'm just not familiar with it.
All right.
Like I said, the only offline storage I've ever tried is Carbonite.
Okay.
Now there's I think there's one called Backblaze, and the Backblaze is kind of an interesting concept. At one time, Adrian, when Adrian was with us on a regular basis, Adrian and I were going to do this. The way it works is I would give access to, let's say, Steve as an example, and Steve would give me access to a particular folder to me, and then my backups would be backed up on Steve's computer in that particular folder. That's the only place I have access to, and his data would be backed up on my computer into his folder over here on my computer. So essentially, my offsite storage is whoever I've chosen it to be, and reciprocally, I give them the same options. I think that's a really good idea unless the person moves or doesn't leave their computer up and running all the time or whatever. I do leave my computer up and running all the time. So it's not really a problem for me. It wouldn't be good for my wife. She says, how come my backups don't work? It's because you get done doing whatever you're doing. You just shut the lid. You don't bother to see if anything's working. So unfortunately, I can't seem to convince her, you can leave the lid open and everything still works. Just let it screen black out. So anyway, I looked at a few of these here today, and here was this particular outfit here, this particular website here talks about Backblaze and how it works, explains it, and then it gets into Crash Plan, another one. Carbonite. Carbonite's one of the older ones. And SOS, I'm not familiar with that one. Sugar Sync, I only heard the name a few times. So anyway, here's a good website. If you just type in on cloud backup, you'll get links. You'll see there's that iDrive right there talking about it.
Right.
This one here did a comparison, which was kind of a cool idea. So you can see what the options they have based on iDrive versus on Crash Plan, SOS, Sugar Sync, Carbonite. It says unlimited storage, but that's unlimited based on your internal hard drive. So if you've got a really big internal hard drive, it's a really great deal. If you've got a 300 or 400 gig hard drive, probably not as good a deal as, let's say, something like iDrive or Crash Plan would be. You can see they both got into 4.5 winks as opposed to 3.5 on Carbonite. The only reason I'm still staying with Carbonite is I've still got another year or so to go on it. And it's tried and true from my standpoint because it definitely saved my bacon. So, but there's a good comparison that you can do. If you do that, if you just do a search on cloud backup, you'll see that one will come up. And let me move this guy out of the way. Then this is talking about Carbonite itself. If you decide to go for Carbonite, put my name as a reference. I'll get a free month out of the deal. Might as well give it to somebody. So here's another comparison on various backup systems. And so I think this is a good way to check stuff out. I really do. And then finally, here was one I was doing a Google search on online backup comparison. And Barracuda was one. That's one of the drive manufacturers, or was a drive manufacturer at one time. And that's pretty much about it. So that gives you an idea of what those options are.
I noticed that none of the editors' reviews were 100% on any of them. Most of them were up there.
Well, they're all, yeah. You have to kind of look at it from what is it doing.
Yeah.
Everybody says the data is encrypted. It is. Who has access to the keys? The company you're sending it to.
Right.
If the government decides to crack down on them for whatever reason, we all know what could happen there. Right. That data could become available to somebody else. So if you're paranoid from that I'm not. I stopped my bomb making years ago, so I'm not into that anymore. And my bombs are usually in the bathroom. That was the problem with my bombs. But anyhow, if you were worried about something like that, I personally think Apple is the safer bet because we know what a stink they put up against, excuse the pun, stink they put up against the FBI on that iPhone situation a year back. It was stupid on the FBI's part to openly go after them. They should have gone to Apple behind closed doors. I think Apple would have been a little more forthcoming, not wanting people to know that, oh, now you want us to build a hook to be able to get in and look at this stuff. I don't buy this. I don't believe it's worth giving up privacy for unlimited access on something that might happen, because you know what? If it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen anyway. Right. I think it'd be like saying, well, I don't want to take the chance of getting hit in a car. Fine, never go in a car.
That's right.
I mean, it's about the same thing. Or people who are environmentalists, I'm not against the environment, let's face it. But at the same time, or you know, the dreaded wheat fly that might die off or whatever, personally, I think humans need to come first. Yeah. I don't think we need to be stupid about it, that's for sure. And I think if we can do something to solve the problem, we should do something to solve the problem. But I don't think we should bend over backwards and just give everybody everything anytime they want it. I don't buy that anymore. In fact, I got an email from somebody yesterday saying, your Apple ID was used. It's got an Apple logo, the whole bit. What morons. The reply to didn't even have an Apple in the name.
That's right.
It was obviously some kind of phishing attempt for me to click here or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, you got to be really stupid if you don't. I mean, whenever I see something that doesn't look quite kosher, I'll do an open, you know, reveal the whole text and all that kind of junk. Robert's talked about that plenty of times in the past. I don't want to get into a situation that, like I said, I don't have anything that I'm nefariously working on. If I was, I'd be buying burner phones. I wouldn't be using a regular phone, you know. How are they going to solve that problem? They can't. They can't do it, you know. It's always a way. Before you know it, the terrorists will be down to using pigeons. And, you know, it'd be real hard to catch those pigeons in between, but they could sure pull that stunt off if they wanted to. We all know that. So my feeling is I went with something that was recommended at the time there weren't as many choices. You know, Microsoft's OneDrive or whatever they call theirs, and Google's Drive, and iDrive, and a lot of these others really didn't exist at the time, but Carbonite did. And I went with Carbonite, and like I said, 6-8 months into it, I found that I had an issue, and it did what I wanted it to do. So I've been happy enough with that. But at the same time, I want to cover myself on other things, which is why I'm using Apple as well. And that's more for the convenience of having the same data available to all my devices. And I'm using the internal backups, and I'm using all the other stuff. So I'm into it for what, $130, $140. If I was going to do one or none, I'd probably do, at this point in time, I'd probably pick Carbonite over Apple if it was going to be an either or. Just because I've had success with Carbonite and never had a problem. And I will say that whenever I've had an issue, every now and then it would stop backing up for whatever reason, and just disabling it, re-downloading another copy. Obviously, something on my end got hosed, and turning it back on, it found my account, and it picked up right where it left off. So that solved the problem. So I felt pretty comfortable staying with them. So they'll be my primary. Apple will be my secondary, then my own ways for covering myself. But it's just something you definitely got to do and look into it. I think it's worthwhile. Go ahead.
Whatever.
What's that, Mario?
You can't hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's about the same level though as Janine is.
I was just going to I use Crash Plan.
How do you like it?
It's fine. Actually, I've had a problem sometimes when it stopped backing up for some unknown reason. You just go in and reset it, whatever.
Right. Same thing with Carbon. And I think it's about $60 a year also, isn't it? About the same?
Price. And I've had no problems.
Yeah,
I also use an external drive, and I use Time Machine.
Smart move. I mean, the Time Machine has that version history, which is pretty much unique to Time Machine. Yeah, that really comes in handy. It really does.
You know, with the new systems now, where you move a file and it makes an alias, and that nabbed me. Because then I said, oh, wait, I got 2 files. I don't need that. I deleted the real file, and all I had was the alias, and nothing would work. But then I went back to Time Machine and restored it. So it saved me a few times.
Boy, you make that mistake, you learn real fast what not to do, don't you? Because I've done the same thing before.
So, I mean, I like Time Machine first because it's so quick, you can restore it. But the others are there. If the house burns down, hopefully I'll have a drive available from Crash.
Yeah, I figure if I go with the house, I don't care so much. But I want an option just in case. Plus, I want the convenience that if I'm over at my folks' house and my mom says, you know, you remember that paperwork I gave you so and so? Did you scan that in and save it? Because I don't hardly print anything anymore. I turn everything into a PDF because first off, I can search on it, and the content of it can be searched by both Spotlight or anything else that I'm using, and I like that. My wife just had to have a new printer here a few months back. We went out and bought a really good deal for about $80. It scanned it, faxed it, did all the baloney. And the ink cartridge has been down. It's buried over on her side because she wanted to use it the most. And she was printing out stuff just for the sake of printing it out. And that was the problem I got into. I've got enough crap laying around here that if I wanted to be in a mode that if I had to, I could pick up the laptop and 2 or 3 hard drives and my iPhone. And if I got room for my iPad, and you know what? I'd be okay. I could live with that.
Okay.
I have a question on a sort of peripheral matter to this. The other day, before Steve got my computer working again for me, I was contemplating a worst case scenario. So I was checking out new 27-inch iMacs on the Apple website, and I noticed they have 2 different drive options. One is the straight SSD, and the other one is Fusion. And the Fusion, you can have much more storage. Is that in fact a combination of an SSD and
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Usually it's like a 64 gig SSD drive and attached inside the same housing, and you know, a 1 or 2 terabyte spinning drive. And the logic being, you don't decide anything. The Fusion drive, it's invisible to you. It figures out which applications and what things you do the most besides booting up, and puts those on the SSD. And then as it needs, if it finds out, oh, you're not doing Microsoft Word anymore, but you are doing Photoshop a lot, then in the background, it'll move a copy of Photoshop over onto the SSD, because you're using Photoshop a lot, and it sees you're using that a lot. And it's pretty smart from that standpoint. My personal recommendation is probably what almost everybody in the industry says nowadays. Forget Fusion, go with just a solid state drive.
Yeah, but I think the biggest solid state drive is
2 terabyte usually. You can get a 2 terabyte.
Yeah, but it's $800
from Apple.
What did I tell you? I paid for 140 megabytes. Okay.
Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said just wait, because the thing is everything is coming down. I got over at Costco 3 32 gig thumb drives from SanDisk for $19.99. And I mean, that's just, I wouldn't say killer, but it's a very good deal, because Micro Center has these things every $5. You get, double the content. But the thing is this stuff gets cheaper as long as you wait.
Yeah, but if I buy a non-Apple drive of some sort, it's not going to mount inside the Apple computer.
Well, I wouldn't.
Well, no, here'd be my recommendation, Bart, is I'd probably get the smallest drive possible or the cheapest drive possible in the Apple packaging, okay? In the Apple combination. Put them, and then take that money that you would have spent on Apple and buy myself a third-party external SSD and Velcro the damn thing onto the back of the iMac, and just move all your operating system over onto that drive, onto a solid-state drive. Put all your apps, put everything over there, and use the internal drive either for backups or for photo storage, jobs that you're working on, projects you're working on, or whatever it is. Now you got the best of both worlds. You didn't pay the Apple arm and a leg, number one. And, you've got regular backup, so you can always get everything back if you have to. But that'd be the first way I would consider it's going to be in Apple's case, it's going to be a Fusion drive. So it's probably a 1 terabyte Fusion drive. It's probably their cheapest package, or a 778 or 775 or something like that. I'd probably go with that and then buy a 2 terabyte or wherever I can afford, and slap and Velcro it onto the back so that it just stays with the iMac and I don't even know it's there. And then reload the operating system onto that one and tell it to boot off that solid state drive in the back.
Well, or in my case, wouldn't it be more logical than to just buy the smallest Fusion drive that they have, and then just use all my other external drives like I've been using them? Because
but I'm talking about if you wanted the most speed possible.
Oh, okay.
Because the Fusion drive is still relying on spinning drive for some apps or for storage.
Now,
that's fine. It's fine for storage, but for application purposes, are you kidding? Photoshop running on a solid state drive smokes. And I hardly use Photoshop anymore. My contract with Adobe runs out here in another couple of months. I'm happy enough with Affinity Photo. I ain't going back to Photoshop.
So I could basically put Photoshop and Lightroom on the SSD.
Sure.
Keep everything else as it was.
You bet. You'd find a tremendous speed increase doing that, especially like in programs like Final Cut Pro, where you can in Photoshop too, where you can designate where you want temporary files created. Have them created over on the solid state drive. It'll blow you away how much faster it is.
Oh yeah, I have a system now. The lady that I'm doing this work for, she has one of the older style 27-inch that is wide, and the newer one, you got to remember, is narrow on the edge, and they got stuff crammed in there. You can't open it yourself, and all these things. I mean, Apple's really, and there's a suit, class action suit, where all these independents like iFixit and then the actual individual people who are doing the repairs are trying to get it passed that the companies can't hide all their quote secrets to repairing this, and they have to allow people to buy and fix things themselves.
Well, I think that's fair, Steve. I think that should be open to other, not under warranty stuff. That's Apple's own thing. Right. But I think everything made that is fixable should be a realistic way of fixing it, unless there's just some practical reason why they can't do it that way. And then if they sell a tool, make you buy a tool to be able to solve the problem.
Yeah, but see, what you're doing now is you're getting Apple to be a provider of materials and tools and stuff like that, and they're more looking at the bigger picture than that. I
think it should be from the standpoint, Steve, if Apple can fix it, I should be able to fix it. Well, I'm willing to spend the money for the tools. That's what it needs to be. Now, maybe a pain in the ass, and that's what I bought that piece of equipment for. I had to learn the hard way, I mean, when I bought my first, I remember my dad, when I bought my first Japanese car, I bought a 73 Datsun just as Datsun was disappearing.
Datsun.
When Datsun was being phased out under the name Nissan here in the United States, I bought a 73 Datsun, brand new, for $2,400, which was amazing back then. It was a 4-speed and manual transmission and a Datsun 510. And whenever I'd go to work on that, my dad would constantly bitch about it being a Japanese car. They got them little hands. I can't get my hands in here or whatever. He bitched about it. And then when he bought his first when he bought a Honda, he bitched about that. But he said, you know what? You get what you pay for.
I got a kid.
And that's true. I mean, I ended up, when I was working for Minolta Camera, the first go around, so this is in like 74 probably, I had, and the car was out of warranty, I had gotten a hole in the aluminum block, and oil was getting into the aluminum block and would overheat, obviously, because it would just choke it up. I'd have to stop driving. I was living at home at the time in Fountain Valley and working in Torrance. And I'd get about halfway down the road. I'd take Pacific Coast Highway because there weren't no carpool lanes or anything back then. I'd get off, pull into a gas station, one off to the side, because of course as soon as I opened up the radiator, it was just loaded with oil, and I'd basically drain the radiator right there, making a mess. And it never didn't go to the same gas station twice, that's for sure. Put water in, and that would get me home. Flush it out when I get home. I got 2 days on that before I finally told my dad what the situation was, and he said, "Okay, well look at here, take the family car. You can drive that back and forth." Well, at work, I was telling one of the guys at work, one of the Asian guys who happened to own a Datsun, and he goes, "Look, before you take the head off, when you pull the valve cover off, before you try to take the head off, you have to cut yourself a carrot-shaped piece of wood and hammer it down in there where the timing chain is." That sounded so damn stupid, I couldn't believe it. Now, my dad had repaired engines all his life, held the world speed record in a classic car in the 40s or whatever. And so he knew everything there was about cars, right? Not so much on these. So the first time we took the thing apart, he went out and he had the head pressure tested. Well, we found out after the fact you can't pressure test an aluminum head, at least you couldn't then, because the aluminum expanded and contracted so much, they had to do Magnaflux, I think is what they called it, or whatever it is. They had another way of testing whether there was a problem with the head. So he came back and said, "No, you just got a bad gasket in the head filter." So we worked on that for hours that night, went to put the head back on. Guess what? The timing chain didn't fit. He said, "Well, I know I didn't lose any links on it because he had put in a turnbuckle to hold the timing chain in place and had it marked so he could put it back on." He says, "It's about 2 links short." And I said, "Well, maybe that's why these idiots told me to cut myself a piece of wood that looks like it's shaped like a carrot with a notch in it, and you nail it down inside it." Come to find out, there was a tensioner built down inside the engine block that pushed against the timing chain. And as soon as you took any tension off of it, it went up, and there was no way to get it back unless you either pulled the front. He had to do that. Dad had to take the radiator out, pull the whole front engine cover off the front, manually put it back on. God, he was pissed. We assembled it all back and drove it one day. Of course, I had oil back in the water again.
Well,
because it wasn't the head gasket; it was the head. Because you know, here it was me, and the kid at work telling me telling Dad, you can't do that. And he goes, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. I've been doing this for 50 years, you know, yada yada yada. So the next day he took a shot, went out and bought another head and a new head gasket, reassembled it himself that night, you know, before I had even got home from work, and that solved the problem, you know. And so after that, whenever we had to do any work on any Asian cars, the first thing he did was go check and see if he had to shove a damn piece of wood down inside the stupid thing, you know. Well, they actually sold that piece of wood if you wanted to buy it for $40.
Yeah, Greg, you know, that's like if we had what we have now with Google and YouTube back in those days.
You'd have an answer right away. You could see right away.
Yeah. I tell you, I have this problem with my Mercedes where the damn door lock goes like this when you lock it, what I call fluttering. So I searched online and I asked the Fletcher Jones, I says, how much is it to fix that? Oh, you got to replace the whole locking mechanism for that door. How much? Oh, $600. And I went through Google, found a YouTube video where they you take out the actuator, and what is in there is a little spring that takes and it flips a piece of plastic or something one way or the other, and that had gone bad. And so like this guy made a video, and then he said, if you want, you know, send me $10 or something like that, and I'll ship you the spring, which I have yet to do, but I figured out a way around it temporarily. But,
see, that's the difference, Steve, between a repairman and a parts replacer.
Yeah.
And most dealerships are parts replacers. I mean, my tilt steering wheel on my car hardly locks in place. In fact, as soon as I touch it, it comes loose again. So one day over at the Honda dealer, and it's got 160,000 miles. How much money do I want to spend on this vehicle? You know, I'll drive it till it drops. I don't care. And I went over there and I said, how much to fix this? It's just loose. I'm sure it's something as stupid as pull the cowling off, pull the mechanism apart, put a washer or something insane like that in there, whatever it is. We have to replace the entire steering column. It's $1,100. So I'll tell you what, I've never bothered to take it apart. The poor man's way of fixing it was to go to Pep Boys, buy two or three of the largest wrap locks. You know what I'm talking about? They go around like hose clamps.
Yeah.
Like on your radiator filters. Buy 2 or 3 of those together, put them together, put it around that column, cinch it up to keep the stupid lever up so that the lever can't come down. Guess what? That solved that problem. It looks like hell, but it's 167,000 miles on the car. What do I care?
What you guys got to realize is the old saying, necessity is the mother of invention.
Mother of invention, yep.
And you did it.
So there becomes a point where it becomes ridiculous. It'd be a different story if the car was 1 or 2 years old, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm still screaming about my wife not letting me spend $3,000 to get the transmission fixed on a van that was in great shape and everything. And Janine's laughing because she's heard the story before.
Well, my brother just got back from a trip up to Utah to visit friends. And on the way up there, his Cummins diesel truck, which is about 10 years old or whatever it is, something went wrong, whatever it was. And it cost him $3,800 to have he had to unhook his trailer, get the trailer. His friend drove his truck down, picked up his trailer, drove it up to his house. Luckily, they were close by, and took the truck into a dealership. They fixed it for $3,800 or whatever the hell it was. He drove it 2 days on. He got to the border coming down here, and something else went wrong with it. And he paid to have it towed all the way down here to his house.
Oh,
and they put the truck up on the bed and towed the trailer behind it, you know, him and his wife, fun vacation. And he said, well, it would have happened anyway. I'm just sorry it happened on the trip. The good thing was they broke down where they were still with their friends and stuff. But I said, so are you going to get this fixed? And he goes, oh yeah, then I'm going to get it fixed. And then it's going, the hell with it. It's time to get a new truck.
Well, I just like the thing that it was paid off. And so both of our cars were paid off about the same time, within
Yeah.
a few months. And the one thing has always been said, you shouldn't buy, if you have two cars, you shouldn't buy them at the same time.
No, you should stagger it.
You should stagger it.
Yep.
So basically, I didn't get to do what I wanted, but the thing is she was able to get something that's higher, brand new and all that jazz. But anyway, so the deal about fixing your own stuff, Greg, or everybody, I took and I had our washing machine go out upstairs to where it sounded like a 747 going off at takeoff. And so I went to Google and I Googled the model number and all that. And up comes a whole list of articles and links to places where people talk about that. And it said, well, this place says you can replace the bearings. Another place said you can't. And the, what do you call it? The Maytag repairmans wanted $600 for the tub. Okay, the part that spins inside, it gets all front end. And so I kept looking. I wasn't going to buy that. So I found a guy, I think he was in Ohio, and that's what he does. His business is selling the bearings for this model that seems to crap out, and loan you the tool at a very low price. And when you sent the tool back, he'd give you a refund on your credit card. So, instead of paying 400 and something, you were paying 185 or something like that, and doing it yourself. And then that worked. It was great. And all of a sudden, recently, had another problem with the thing, and it wasn't the bearings, but the motor was turning in such a way that it would do like what I'm doing with my hand. It would turn and stop, turn and stop. And what would happen is the light went off that said, that it's on and it's locked and all that jazz. So I said to my wife, we'll go and let Mark and I try it, because now that I know the insides of the thing and how it works and where the circuit boards are and everything, I went and looked at the circuit boards first. There was no burned components or anything. So I dropped the motor, because it's a one bolt. You pull the one bolt out, the motor drops out, and it's belt driven, to the main tub. And so what happens is I go through it, and he says, it might be the tachometer board. And I called him on a Sunday in a panic, and he called me back. He must work out of his house too. And so what happens is I drop that, and the tachometer is a little circuit board on the motor held on by 3 screws. And what happens is 2 of the screws are visible, and 1 screw is under a device that breaks the beam, those sensors. And under there was a little, another screw. And the problem was, basically, I found out that the washing machine vibrates so much that most of their boards are one-sided. They don't do double-sided feed-through boards and all that stuff. And so they were using a single-sided board to hold the connector just by the solder. There was no structural. And what had happened was it had worked the solder joints loose or cracked them. And once I took some ignition wrenches and I went up under the interrupter or that thing, I could loosen the other screw, pulled it out, flipped it over, and 3 solder joints. That's all it is. Put it all back together, and it's like,
amazing.
I just find that, the Mercedes has a bunch of problems. It's got a air conditioning valve problem, where you say, oh, send the air up here or down to your feet or whatever. and there's a clicking. So when I start the car, it goes click, 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 and it's trying to actuate one of those, and found out that it's a deal made of plastic, and it breaks. And to get into that, remember how you said about the your steering wheel? Well, that's about what you have to do to go from the driver's side, take the console out and all this stuff, just to get over here to the glove box, behind the glove box somewhere. And it's like crazy. Anyway, it's getting on to
Greg, may I interrupt?
Questions from guys?
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, and the problem is that for a couple of months now, or maybe longer, on my mail, one account, the type is tan. Every other account is black. So I missed some email because I can barely read it.
Well, the tan usually means it thinks it's junk
or spam.
It's on my junk mail. It's not on my wife's junk mail or any other junk mail. It's only on my account junk mail. I can't figure out how to turn that into black again so I can read it.
What you can do is you can select it and move it to the inbox folder, and it'll become black. And then go look at, then read it in the inbox folder, and then just delete it if you into your inbox.
There is
if mail automatically thinks it's junk, so it automatically changes it to that color.
Yeah, right click on it and you will get a selection to change it from junk to a regular one, and you can still read it in the junk folder.
And if you don't have right click, you can always do control click.
Right. Does that make sense, Ron? So select the mail in the list and hold right mouse click or hold down the control and left mouse click to change, to move it to the inbox. It'll stay where it's at right now because you've still got that window open, but now it'll become black. And then you can decide after you've read it, do I want to make this from this point on junk again, and if that, or just delete it, either way.
You know,
but you're right. It's a poor choice of colors Apple picked. They'd have been better off to pick. It should have been like dark brown or red or something like that, where you could have seen it a little easier.
Colors. The one thing, Greg, I've noticed too, I was trying to find your email, and for some reason now, all of the stuff that I used to get from my brother, from all the people I know or I've signed up for, have all been going to junk rather than the inbox. And you know,
well, you select a bunch of them and just say they're no longer junk, and from that point on, they should stay out of the junk. So I've seen that happen once in a blue moon.
Yeah, well, it's doing it now that I have to, instead of having my inbox as my main when I start up, I have to go to junk. So I got to spend some time on it and get everything all sorted out. And
if you got somebody you can call on the phone, select one of them, select that person, one of their junk mails.
Yeah.
And change it to put it in the inbox, okay?
Yeah.
To mail thinks this is junk. This is not junk. Click on that option.
Right.
And then have them send you a new email right away and see where it goes.
See where it goes, yeah. Because
and if it goes where it's supposed to go back and pick the other ones and do the same thing too.
Yeah. My brother rides every day. He fell and cracked some ribs and stuff, so he's finally going back, and he sends me this thing called Road ID eCrumbs. And basically, they set up an account with your cell phone number, and it will track you on your trip. And if you're at a spot, it checks every person every minute, and it will show you on a map where you are or where the person that wants you to know where he is. And it was really nice, but that was always in my regular mail. And yesterday I went looking for it, and there's, heck, where is it? Then
I periodically just skim through the junk mail just to make sure there's not something that I've missed.
Yeah,
I try to do it weekly or whatever, but.
One thing I've had happen with mail lately is I have a lot of stuff that comes regular email, and every now and then if I don't look in, and I know somebody might be sending me an email or I'm expecting something from a company, I didn't get the email. And if I go into junk here, regularly it goes into regular mail, but every now and then it'll decide to put it in the junk mail.
Yeah.
Like you guys are talking about. And, you know, I can understand that because some of the stuff one place might send is junk, but certain things that they send are not. So, I mean, it works out in some respects, but you have to check that every now and then.
Greg, I just wanted to tell you that you took the time. I really think it was a great job you did. Take the time to figure out what way we can do some of this. And I mean, this is fantastic. You know, the quality.
Well, I'm sorry for the problems that we had. I mean, for whatever reason, my microphone's on neither the computer or this didn't work. I don't know what that is. For some reason, the links weren't right today. I don't know what that is. And then I didn't get a notice from them that they had made any kind of an upgrade, you know, maybe test it out. I would have done that, you know, but apparently they changed a couple things because I noticed a couple of other options that weren't there before. So
yeah, but
I'll have a few words with them about that.
Yeah. The thing is, you know, as they say, shit happens, but the thing is, it's been, and I tell people about this, they ask, gee, can I, you know, what can I do? WebEx and all this stuff. And I says, this thing is like piece of cake.
Well, we had three people on that I've never seen before today, and that was Allison, and she already had a commitment, but that's fine. She'll probably join us.
She was on.
She was going to. No, she's never been. Well, she's on our test one. She's never been on a regular club meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then, but she was going to SMOG, so I can understand that. And then we had Ken Cordes, who's a friend of mine from the Camera Club days, way back when, Big Mac user, and Danny Chu, who's a PC guy. We used to work together at Hughes 30 years ago. Was trying to get me a job, but it was down in Rancho Bernardo. It was the only job that yeah, not a chance in hell. If I have to drive more than about 30 minutes, I wasn't interested. Now I wouldn't mind doing some work out of the house, and I'm looking into that possibility because I'm just bored to death right now.
Yeah, but that would be a good deal if you could find a what do they call that? The telecommute.
Yeah.
You know, that would be great. But this works. My wife has got a contract with somebody now, and it is all day in the office. And I said, well, gosh, we should suggest something like this to them, where if a person can't be there, they can be here like this with virtual. And Greg, please remember to send me.
Yeah, the invoice. I got to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my wife asked me about that, and I said, no, it's my fault.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll get it. You know, as soon as I get it in, I'll send it out to you.
Appreciate it.
Anyway,
all right, guys.
For me.
Anything else, anybody?
It's been great.
Yeah, well, real quick, from the beginning, you were talking about older Macs.
Yeah.
I've got a 2008, early 2008 iMac, which I'm using right now, and this thing has been great. So it's 9.5 years old. So.
Well, I've got the computer I'm using now and finally what I did was I went and put on the bottom of it a sticker that says late 2008 MacBook Pro. And so I just missed the boat on
64-bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and it's in perfect condition because I got the plastic covers, cases and stuff. And it
can't run any of the newer operating systems on it.
Yeah. And the thing that I got.
Well, I got so sick and tired of the thing where it says your Safari's out of date, your browser's out of date, you know, update it, and here are the versions that will work. And it's
that's one of the reasons, Steve, why I bought Marcia a newer Mac. It's current enough. She got a MacBook Pro that I paid $600 for, and it's current enough that it's a 15-inch, and it works with all the same operating system and all the same stuff that I've got. It's about a year older than this one is. So I wanted something that was current enough that we could at least maintain between the two of us. Yeah.
Greg, do you ever run across any 64-bit Macs that are pretty cheap?
But I'm not in a position really to say, but if I hear something, I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah, my daughter.
This was Mac of all trades where I bought this from.
Okay. My daughter wants another computer, and I'm not going to buy her an expensive computer.
Well, I wouldn't know if you. Like I said, both these MacBook Pros are 64-bit, and I paid $3,000 for this one 5 years ago, and $600 for hers.
Yeah.
8 months ago. From Mac of all trades, and I'm real. really happy working with them. So
If you run across something, let me know.
OWC's got some decent prices.
they
on
do too. Yep,
stuff,
they're my two
there's-
favorite places to look is Macaball Trades and Other World.
places. Right. You know, like this machine here, I got 6 gigs of RAM in it, and I put a 500 gigabyte Samsung SSD drive in it. And you know what? It runs just fine. I don't do any heavy stuff on it. My Hackintosh I use for that. So
yeah.
You know, I can only go up to El Capitan, but I'm still running Yosemite. And, you know, with all the problems El Capitan had, Yosemite is working beautiful. In fact, I just installed Yosemite on a machine that's 11 years old. I picked up an old PC that's brand new, still in the box, that was 11 years old. My oldest brother passed away, and I went and helped take care of some stuff, and I picked up, it's an old dual core. I've got Yosemite running on it. It's a little laggy, but everything works. So, you know.
Yeah, you can do what you can do.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I got to get back on this lady. She wants her computers back at 6:30, so transferring her data is slow. So
hey,
everybody,
guys.
you know how to reach any of us if you still have questions.
Thank you.
Steve, thanks again for helping me out.
Greg?
Bart, if you got any issues, give me a call in an hour or so.
Hey, Greg?
Yeah.
I tried to message you. I was going to message you on the iPhone. I finally got an iPhone, but it was going to send it SMS. So I guess your work number is not a iPhone number.
I don't have a work number.
Well, whatever you have in your email says it's a work number.
Really?
Yep. Or no, that's a number I've had for a long time. That's in my list, I think.
Oh.
Let me tell you what it is. Just a second.
Okay. If it's a 949.
280-8002.
Now that's a home phone number, and I never bother to answer anymore because it's almost 90% of it's crap.
Oh.
Always call me on the iPhone 366-1364.
Okay, just a second. I need to write that down. So, okay, 366
1364.
1364, and that's 714.
Yep.
Oh, okay. You have the same.
I'm one of the few weirdos that's actually in the phone book, on Google. I'm everywhere. I don't care.
Oh, yeah. No problem. Yeah, you got the same prefix I have on mine. I've got 714366. So, 4294. I actually remembered it. Since I never call it, it's funny I remembered it. So, but anyway, yeah, no, that's great. I can update my list now.
Good.
So, because I actually got, I was on Sprint, and I decided, well, I'm getting rid of Sprint because they won't give me my 25% discount anymore if I update my plan. Because I had a flip phone up until last month. You know, that I just used phone calls, didn't do text messaging.
Sure, I understand, yeah.
So I went ahead and went with Ting. I don't know if you've heard of Ting. They're a third party. You know, they just supply telephone, text messaging, and
yeah. I'm thinking about taking T-Mobile off of mine and going with Ting too.
Hey, I'll tell you what. And you can. They have two networks. You can either use the whatever T-Mobile uses or what
CDMA, yeah.
I can't think of them.
Yeah, you can use Verizon phones or you can use T-Mobile.
Right. It's either T-Mobile or Sprint is the networks that they use.
Right, but that's two different networks. There's CDMA and GSM.
Right, and what happens is if you use the Sprint one, it says it's a Sprint phone on your phone.
Right.
But if you use the T-Mobile one, it says Ting on it. And there's actually some restrictions with Sprint, but there isn't any restrictions on the T-Mobile network that they use.
Right.
Okay, I went from $58 a month for 2 lines that all we did was make phone calls on, and we had a $550 plan. Anyway, my bill this month was $26.63.
Right.
2 phones.
They only bill you for what you use.
Exactly. Exactly. Where it can get expensive is if you use a lot of data.
Right.
I have data turned off and I have my Wi-Fi turned on, so all my data goes through the Wi-Fi.
Sure.
And I don't even get billed for iMessages unless I'm not on a network.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually billed separate from the data.
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
Yeah, and I like the Wi-Fi calling too. I use my iPad, which does not have cellular in it, up in the bedroom to watch movies on before I'm falling asleep or whatever. And if my phone rings downstairs or whatever it is, of course it rings on the Mac and it also rings on the iPad, and I can initiate a call from the iPad. Even if you don't have, I've got a keyboard utility, but I can always just tell Siri, call Jeanette Locke at home on speaker, and it'll do it.
That's cool.
Now, do you know anything about Two Cows?
What about?
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Well, Two Cows.
They're still around as far as I know.
Ting is owned by Two Cows.
Is that right? Oh, cool.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, they're setting up a gigabit network back east in one of the cities too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I can't remember what. If you go to their website, no, they're really good. And I'll tell you what, you call them, they answer the phone, and they're right there to answer the phone and help you out.
Right.
Because I had a problem with the CDMA, and I told them that I wanted to go the other way. They sent me a SIM card at no charge.
Mm-hmm.
I actually bought a brand new iPhone through them, the iPhone SE for my wife, and they sent both cards with that. And I've had no problems changing over. I finally changed both of them over to GSM because.
And kept your own phone number?
Yep. Oh yeah, you can port your own number over there,
Right.
no problem. No
Right.
problem. And Sprint, the only thing you want to make sure of is that whoever number you're porting over, if it's Sprint or Verizon or anything, make sure you let them know that you're canceling your service. Otherwise, they'll issue a new number to your old account.
Oh, okay.
So that's something to keep in mind on that. But I've been really happy with them.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
I've had them for a month now, and you know, I didn't get charged.
Have you got your first bill yet?
Pardon me?
Have you got your first bill yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was $26 and some odd cents.
That's great.
So, I mean, we used 400. What it's based on is the first, I think, the first 100 minutes is $3.
Mm-hmm.
500 minutes goes to $6, I believe.
Right.
Or $9, one of the two.
$6 per line, yes.
Yes. Well, it's $6 per line. That's just the charge.
Right.
And they charge you for minutes. The first 100 minutes is $3, and then the next tier, once you go over 100, you move to the 500-minute tier, and that's either $6 or $9.
Right. Well, I looked at 1,000 minutes. I think it was 5 gigabytes of data, and texting was going to be like $23 a month for each phone.
Okay. Actually, texting, it depends on how many. If you do iPhone texting and you're on a network, you won't get charged for those text messages.
Oh, okay.
Only SMS. You'll only get charged for SMS messages.
Okay.
So, because I know I did over 100 texts, and I only got charged for 30 texts for the month.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, like I said, I run on the network at home. I don't do a whole lot on there, but you know, with iMessage, they don't charge you if you're on your network.
Right.
So, and the network calling, I believe, does work with GMA, but not with Sprint or GSM, but not on CDMA.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think CDMA has network calling or Wi-Fi calling.
Right. Well, you do if you're with Sprint, but